noting that it's 7:01 and it's May 17th, 2017. I'm going to call the Board of Health meeting to order. So we have 2 appointments on the agenda and then a variety of other business, but we've also received a few items that were not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of this meeting. And we'll just note them and then vote whether to amend the agenda. First one is there's a revision to a previously approved plan for 237 Washington Street, and we have a discussion about soil testing at Lot 1 on Green Lane. So do we have a motion?
I had left you a little note
yes.
about the cancer incidence report.
Yes, and we've received cancer incidence report for 2009 to 2013, the Sherborn supplement. So we have those 3 items. We would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include those.
I move that the agenda be amended to include those items.
And someone like to second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, let's see, I'm going to save the minutes for discussion because that's usually not as exciting for people in the audience. Is there anyone who has something special that's not already scheduled that they wanted to talk about? Yep. Okay. So let's see. Things that we could get done easily. Okay, so let's do Pine Hill School water quality. And so we had a question last meeting or the meeting before that regarding water quality at Pine Hill School and issues about volatiles there. And Ellen, I believe you dug out some data on that.
Yeah. Pine Hill School tests their water annually for their food establishment permit. They also do monthly testing because they're a public water supply. So I went back through all of their food establishment permits. And back in, for their 2016 food establishment permit, the water analysis report that they submitted for volatiles did show several volatiles. However, a letter was sent to them and they were told that the permit could not be issued. It required that they flush the well and submit 2 subsequent retests. And they did. There were 2 clean retests submitted prior to the issuance of their food establishment permit. And other than that year, I did not find any volatiles in their water.
Okay, and I have a vague recollection that perhaps this was related to a disinfection event or some other event that I think they're a public water supply, so they're regulated by Mass DEP, which has a whole schedule of testing for public water supplies, and then they're required to submit their results to the state, and they're governed by state regulations. So that data goes to the state, and sometimes we're copied and sometimes we're not. And the data that we have, as Ellen mentioned, is related to issuing their food permit annually. And so we had water quality testing required. And then you're going to say, so my recollection was somehow the operator for their public water supply system had done some kind of work on the system.
It did say that they had sent an email. We are aware that the well has been chlorinated recently. Well, we actually sent it due to a detection of coliform bacteria. So they had chlorinated, and then the VOCs showed up.
And then they flushed it, and then they
went away.
Did 2 consecutive tests that came back with 0 VOCs. So.
A couple questions on that. I think I was the one that raised the issue. 2 questions. Number 1, what were the 2 VOCs? Chloroform, I think you just mentioned. What was the second VOC that showed up? And what were the amounts that showed up?
there was bromodichloromethane, bromoform, chloro-dibromomethane, and chloroform.
So there were three?
Four.
Four. And what were the amounts in micrograms?
They ranged from 1.1 to 2.
And was there any concern about the kids continuing to drink that water, or was there a suggested boil or use bottled water or anything like that?
Well, upon learning about it, we required that they retest and submit 2 consecutive clean samples. But again, it's a public water supply regulated by the state, but we did hold them to the town standard.
Great, thank you.
Can I just ask, did they test for lead?
They test for lead as part of the public water supply, not for the food establishment.
Public water supply systems, there's the lead copper rule, and there's a standard procedure for not just testing, but the whole protocol to set up the test to collect worst case. And usually from multiple, I haven't seen Pine Hills, but it's usually from multiple places within the system to ensure, and ones that are used. And that gets negotiated with DEP, so they would propose where they would sample within the building. DEP would review it and approve it, and based on inspectors who go out to the sites, they would know what the layout is and that sort of thing. So another thing they consider is, endpoints in the system, so they're collecting what may be picked up along the way.
I just have one follow-up.
It's a general.
Was the school allowed to continue to serve food during the period that it was functioning?
Yes. And you do understand they're not under our jurisdiction for that?
For the food permit they were?
Yes.
Because they're considered public supplies.
No, and that's regulated by DEP, right, not by us.
So both.
But the food permit is under the purview
sure.
of the local board of health, right?
Okay. So let's do, we're going to try and ease you in simple discussions, but I don't really think we have too many of them. So let's do, since you've already viewed the cancer incidents, talk about that.
Madam Chair, would you move your microphones closer, please? I'm having trouble hearing.
Okay. Is that better?
Stick it up.
Is that better?
That'll do it better.
Okay.
Look, there's a noisy fan over there, as I'm sure you're aware.
Oh, maybe we should turn that on.
Good.
Whoops.
You want me to?
Try your best, Jack.
Right, where did I just see the cancer
Should
incidents?
be the end of what.
There we
what's
go.
in the permit.
Okay, so I guess the exciting page is the next to last page. Is everybody saying what was on the desk this evening? So we, just to review, we have, I hope we should be doing, holy moly, reorganization of the board. Anyway, let's finish this and then we'll reorganize the board. I knew it was something else major. So we get information sent to us ahead of the meeting, but things that come in between when that is sent and tonight is left for us on the desk. So the cancer incident report is one of those. And since we just got it, let's see. Does anything jump out at anybody? Well, I will say what we've found in the past is although we sometimes see some variations, either much lower or higher than expected, given that we're a relatively small population, all you need is one case to really throw things in any given direction. So
I think if you look at all sites and all types of cancers, though, we're pretty much exactly at the expected incidence rate. So, and considering that our population is slightly skewed to older than a lot of, it's not a bell curve of ages, I think that, that's actually pretty heartening that we're pretty much dead on the average. Excuse the pun, sorry.
And then the other thing we've discussed in the past too is that we may have a population that has reasonably good access to medical care and therefore would also detect things either way, either to identify them or to have preventive actions to head off. So, all right. I don't have any particular comments. Anybody else on? Okay. So reorganization of the board. And that involves a whole bunch of things, but I think we should be able to fit that in before. Okay. So first we need to elect a chair and a vice chair. Do you have any nominations?
I nominate Daryl as chair.
I'll second.
Okay, any other? All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And any nominations for vice chair? Rebecca is currently vice chair, so
I nominate Rebecca.
I second.
any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so far, moving right along. All right. We have some routine appointments, and we're just going to go through those and confirm. And then there's some nuances just around a couple of these. In any case, we have 3 health agents. 2 are supplemental part-time health agents, and 1 is a casual supplemental part-time health agent, meaning much less routine work assignments or regularity of assignments. The issues with, so in the past, the health agent had been a contractor and there weren't limits on the hours, but as a part-time employee, they need to stay below 20 hours a week in order to not be obligated to pay benefits, and that's something that certainly the town has been interested that we keep costs down in that way. So once we went away from the contractor to the employee status, we needed a mechanism to deal with what if we need to go over 20 hours a week on either an intermittent or routine basis, because I was informed that really more than once and that wouldn't be acceptable, and not much over 20 and it wouldn't be acceptable. So we have Mark Oram and Beth Halal, and then Ethan Mascoop is continuing to do a little bit of work finishing out projects that concern well and septic and that sort of thing, but really going forward, the plan has been to use him for overseeing the camp and for working on general chemical, because he has particular expertise and interest in those topics. He's also more expensive than the other 2 agents, so.
Oh, my understanding was they were all the same.
That was what we were aiming for, but town administrator hasn't backed us up on that, and that's something that the new board needs to discuss. And whether we want to address the issue again, but we've been addressing it and been requesting information on that. So, any
Well, I was going to make a comment.
questions, comments?
So my only comment is that there was a desire to have one agent for all of the duties, because clearly there are a lot of advantages to having one agent. And historically there was one agent, but there's not only an increased demand, but other recent sort of challenges and complications. And after the application process, unfortunately, there were not any applicants who were able to fulfill all the responsibilities. And the reason that the decision to continue with 3, which seems kind of crazy, and I shouldn't use the word crazy, doesn't seem to be as efficient, was because of the strengths that the different agents had. And in particular, Mr. Mascoop had been working with General Chemical for a long time, for years before we hired him in the capacity that he was hired most recently. And the same thing is true for the other 2 agents. And so unfortunately, it was not what we had desired to conclude in this way, but it was the way it was reached in the end.
Right, so actually Ethan Mascoop is perhaps the single person who's worked more on General Chemical than anybody else, since he was part of identifying the problems that were over there initially and organizing around that. So he's a great resource for that. I'll also note that having the other two health agents supplemental part-time to work on well and septic issues, part of that is anticipatory of the demands for 40B projects, which we found last year to be quite demanding on time, and larger projects in general.
So the third agent is brand new. I haven't met her yet. And so I think perhaps there's a possibility that at some point we could have one agent, but that was how the decision was reached at the current time in order to maintain the ability to be able to accomplish the work of the board.
To get clarification, are the supplemental part-time health agents focused exclusively on well and septic, and there's a separate inspector for food and sanitation, or do they all mix and match?
At the moment, it's separate, but that's actually something I'd like to discuss when we get to food inspector.
Oh, okay.
So, okay. Ellen, is it better to address these one at a time in terms of voting, or kind of as a lump vote?
Depends on what the vote is, so
Oh, okay.
it could go either way.
Okay. All right, let's run through it all, since maybe that'll help explain. But any other questions or issues?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so the food inspector is currently a contractor. I think we've been using him for 1.5 to 2 years, somewhere in that time frame.
I think just over a year.
Oh, okay. No, it seems longer, but okay. We were advised a couple of years ago that the health agent and food inspector should be separated in terms of managing them. That apparently is not necessarily the case. We've learned since then. But we did find a food inspector. He's been performing the services, been doing fine at that. And there are a few issues, though. One is that he does live fairly far away, and when we spoke to him initially about that, he felt he had a lot of other work up in this area and that he would be around frequently. And I don't know that it's as convenient for him any longer, whether that changed or whether it was just different than he expected. So although he's come and he's performed the basic duties, I think with the addition of another health agent, with Beth now on board, we have the opportunity to perhaps streamline things and have somebody who may be available on a more frequent basis and may be in town for other work to be able to respond to things more quickly and do follow-up visits more easily than has been done. So an example of this, and although this could happen to anybody, so for the library fair, the food inspector's son, I believe, was getting married. so clearly really wouldn't come to inspect a library fair for that. So Beth Halal went and did the inspection at the library fair, which is an important event for the town. There's food service there. There are food vendors there. It's important to inspect all of them. So it was an opportunity to use her for that, so she does have all the credentials necessary for food inspection. So one of the things we can consider is whether we want to let the food inspector's contract expire at the end of the fiscal year and then have our health agents do the food inspections. Does anyone have any particular thoughts on that?
Is there any differential cost between the delivery of that service for the food inspector versus the health agent?
It's hard to compare because the food inspector charges a fixed fee per inspection and then an hourly rate for other items. And it's a tough call as to where that would fall out. I don't think it would be radically different. I think the fixed fee is $65 per inspection and $35 per hour. So some inspections take an hour and some don't. So one could look at it that way. The health agents are $55 an hour, roughly. So I think it's hard to precisely calculate.
So nothing substantial that stands out?
No, I don't think so.
If you had to estimate roughly the number of hours, though, on an annual basis that are spent doing food inspections, though, is that something that you have a sense of? Is that, roughly maybe 100 inspections a year, or does it?
So I haven't tallied the inspections lately, but I do have a lot of tallies in the past. So here's the difference if we look at, we've had this food inspector, is that there are times for follow-ups and other things that rather than visiting the site, the work has been done by phone. So that's different. And it's just a different dynamic. And I think there was one year where one of the establishments in town had 12 inspections, I believe, because they were going through changes and it just required a lot of follow-up and attention by the food inspector at the time. That doesn't always happen, but it's nice to have that option to have the follow-through and not rely on phone, is my opinion.
Sorry, because if they're limited to 20 hours a week, I was just trying to get a sense if we consolidated efforts and they were also responsible for doing the food inspections, was that going to eventually lead to a problem that they weren't going to be able to do the septic inspections we needed to do, etc.?
No, I don't think it would be a problem because the number of hours, so how many establishments do we have in town officially?
Well, we issue like maybe 20 permits a year, but most of those are temporary. They're not,
Right.
there might be 7 or 8
That's what I was
that
going
are,
to say.
Yeah, and then the state mandated number of inspections is 2 for permanent year-round and 1 for other. So it's not a lot of hours
So it's probably
a
under
year.
50 hours a year.
Oh, I would think,
Probably.
yeah.
All right.
It's like it
that-
makes sense to consolidate.
So, yeah, it's an intermittent sort of a thing. This food inspector and others have chosen certain times of year to kind of catch up and do things. For example, this time of year is moving into the warm weather, is a good time to be making sure that refrigerators are working properly and food is being stored properly, so it's not potentially hazardous foods.
And do we have any concerns about the sort of timing of work in terms of when the testing season is for the agent activities versus food inspection? Or is there enough flexibility in the food inspection to space that out so we're not sort of hitting peak of both activities? Okay.
Yeah, I would say the food inspections are much more flexible than trying to coordinate with a backhoe on a site to do soil evaluation. So, Peter?
Madam Chairwoman, I would like to strongly encourage you to follow the course that you're suggesting without elaborating. There are issues with the current situation that I think can be greatly improved by what you're proposing, and the flexibility of the two agents actually both being able to qualify to follow food inspections is I think, a very good plan, and I'm glad we thought of it and proposed it. Thank you.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right, and then,
Can I make a comment?
yes.
Are you suggesting that both Mark and, I've forgotten, it's Halal.
Beth.
Sorry.
Beth Halal.
Beth, yeah, Mark and Beth will both be doing food inspections? Is that what you're suggesting?
I think we have the potential for that, but right now, I'm thinking, although we can discuss it, I'm thinking Beth to focus on that.
So they both have one of my concerns, long-term concerns, as you know, is the availability of Mark during the day. And I'm not sure I'd want to have Pine Hill School, tested or inspected at 6 o'clock at night. It needs to be inspected when school is serving lunch, I would think. And so I would have concerns about that. I just want to make that clear.
Okay? All right, and then the animal inspector has been Kimberly Morrow for quite some time.
I'm sorry,
Oh.
Madam, are you going to take a vote on pursuing that action or not?
I'm going to see where we come out. I have a feeling that there may be a group that we can just vote as is and then pull out the vote for the one that may be varying. If that's okay with you, it's a choice I was making
I'm a little
about
confused because
process.
you just proposed a change, basically a procedural change in the organization, the food inspections, and yet you're lumping them all together.
No,
But there may be multiple pullouts, so if
Yes.
we're pulling out 3, we can vote on the
These
other
are the ones
ones.
you're pulling out from the lump.
We're determining
We're
which ones
going
are adding
through,
right
yes.
now.
Okay, I didn't.
There might be more. Yeah, I thought
Oh,
so.
I missed that point.
okay. And actually, we're not going to get too far because we have an appointment in a minute. Any comments on the animal inspector, Ellen?
No.
And this is someone who just needs to respond to incidents, dead crows and rabid animals, I presume.
With her, it's actually a formality that you're appointing her now because she's officially appointed by the state, and that's done in March. So if you remember, back in March, you nominated her,
Oh,
and
yeah.
she has been appointed by the state, so this is just your formal.
Okay. Any other questions about that?
I actually have one question about bats. Because I had a bat incident a couple of years ago and called the non-emergency police number in town and said, okay, well, who do I talk to? What do I do? Should I try and, kill it or put it in a bag, and how can I get it tested to see if it's rabid, etc. And I was told that we should kind of share an agent. So is that something that would fall under Kim's purview or not?
What type of animal is that?
No, that would be the animal control officer, who I believe is a police officer now. If you mean catch the bat for you?
Or just tell us the protocol and then help, arrange for testing? Just asking.
You could try Kim, but that typically would be the animal control officer. Kim could advise you on rabies testing, but she doesn't.
Because they are harbor rabies often.
Actually, the one that we had, eventually I did get someone to pick it up and have it tested, and it was not rabid. It's actually a pretty, it's a smaller
Somebody get a
percent.
bite?
No,
That's or a scratch.
no.
Thank
But I've known other people in town who have had bat issues, and I think that maybe this is something we could provide some clarity on, so that if you have this problem, just saying who people can call, because everyone was confused when I called, that no one really knew.
It's interesting if it's under the police department that they were not able to tell you that. for the animal.
They eventually did help me identify someone, but apparently they share resources with other towns for the animal control, so it's not a dedicated person. So that's what I found out.
Okay, all right, so we're going to have to put this to the side for the moment. We have an appointment for revisiting and discussing the sequence of construction for septic replacement at 211 Farm Road. And I see David Parrish is here. And Mark, are you also?
I was going to just let the applicant, if he so wishes, to review his wishes with the board,
Okay.
and we can go from there.
Yeah,
Do you have plans at all, or?
I don't, I had
I
to
do, if you want these to show.
No, I'm good. There was a stipulation on the approval for the septic system install at 211 Farm that we essentially had to have the septic system installed and signed off on prior to having rough electrical signed off on. And kind of the sequencing of events for the project are playing out such that we're ready for an electrical sign off. We want to move forward with installing insulation and blue board and plaster. That's kind of what's going on in the interior, exterior. We're doing siding, we're doing the racing metal roofing now, and there's still a fair amount of grading that needs to be done on site. So we're asking the board if they would kind of extend that so that we can maybe put the septic system in, get the sign off on that on a later date, so that we can move moving forward with the project.
So is the septic system underway at the moment?
It just got staked out last week by GLM, and it's on schedule to probably start as soon as we get the siding done, because right now there's equipment on site, so once the siding's done, then we'll come in, we'll get the grades. Right now, the grades are probably 2 to 3 feet below where they need to be for the landscapers to come in. So, we have to get the siding done first, then we'll get the grading done and then we'll do the system. So that's going to take a little bit of time, and I don't really want to stop kind of progress on the interior while we, wait to get the siding done.
Okay. Mark, any particular comments on?
It would be possibly one of the first situations of this nature. Excuse me. At the same time, the reason we have this control is to prevent anyone from occupying. It would be a matter of maybe determining timelines and setting up some controls, because whatever you do tonight, you would set a precedent for a future request. Previous past practice has always been up to rough electrical. So, should I get closer to the mic? Previous past practice has always been to go up to rough electrical.
Right, so it's really a control since it was a change in normal sequence to allow for progress on the house to continue, but again, to have a way to make sure that there is a septic actually serving the dwelling in the end. So the question becomes, is there any other way to be able to ensure that it happens?
I'm actually interested in, this is not health, but it just out of lack of knowledge of the construction industry, what is the time involved in, if we held to the original agreement, what would that do to your project? And what's the normal expected timeline or time necessary for each step that we would be interfering with the progress on?
It varies a lot based on the individual project. I mean, where we are right now in the interior, we're essentially ready to get our rough sign-offs. We have rough plumbing, we're ready for rough electrical, HVAC is done, so the next step for us is to do insulation, which is going to take 2 to 3 weeks, and then board and plaster, which is going to take a few weeks. That's kind of what's going on in the interior right now. Exterior, we're siding, we're doing the metal roofing.
Yeah, no, my question is, how long does it take for the septic system to get to a point of completion, or for the ability for us to gather the information that we need?
Yeah, well, the septic, as far as the install time on the septic, I mean, it's probably a week. But the thing is, we can't really do that until we have the grading done around the property. Right now, grading is probably 2 to 3 feet below where it needs to be finished.
Yeah, because what we care about is protecting the water supply, not, the septic system, and so we don't so it doesn't get damaged in the process.
Right, I want to protect the septic system, I don't want to put it in and then have all the trucks running around over it, that's my concern. And I also don't want to kind of slow production on the project just because, we're waiting to get stuff done with the expert. It would be nice to be able to move forward on all fronts, and I just feel like there's no way we're going to get a CO unless we have a septic system installed and signed off on.
That's what I was going to ask, to just clarify the certificate of occupancy requirements, if that's the concern, if that can't happen anyway until the septic is approved, that gives me at least more confidence that we're not going to run into it.
And I can add a couple things. One, typically it's 4 to 6 weeks to construct a system. Some installers can do it quicker depending on if they have the materials available and the time of season. If it's winter, it usually goes up to maybe 6 weeks. And a good point was just made is the fact that this is different from, say, a repair with an addition, where the question would be, I guess, to the applicant is, has the present septic system been abandoned? I don't have any information on that, but is the present...
Yeah, it was.
So I would suggest to the board, if we can get certification on the abandonment of the septic system, that is leading to a different situation. That may lead to further applicants' request of this nature, that they're actually building a new house. It's a tear down, rebuild. We actually require that the septic system go in secondary to the house if it's new construction. Here, you asked for a couple waivers, I believe, so that's why it's being treated a little differently, although it looks like new construction. House went down, new house being built, septic system being abandoned. I think that alone is another control we could have in the CO as well. So if we can get certification, I think this request may come again, but I can see some good in it. The good being that the septic system will not get damaged during the construction of the house.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it would be good to, if we just focus on what we are trying to do, which is protect the integrity of the septic system and the drinking water wells.
And I think that would happen with this request. Again, if you go deep into the request, it's preserving the regulations so that if people are doing a repair, it doesn't resemble new construction. That ultimately was the reason why we went to Rough Electrical, to give some lead time for them to put the system in and not to stop progress. But maybe part of that procedure will be that if it's a new house being built, that we start following to some degree the integrity requirements that we have for new construction as we do for replacing houses in this case. So I guess that is a little different from possibly adding on to a house and then putting a system in prior, because they can obviously just go right into the next room or bedroom. So this is a little bit different. It is different, not a little bit. It is different.
And I'm also thinking that perhaps this warrants in the future, maybe on our agenda, we should consider meeting with our building inspector and getting together to understand when you differentiate new versus repair, because there was a recent issue that came up, and he said that he views it differently, and that there might have been some changes in the last few years in state regulations, and I think it might be worth us having a conversation with him so we can, especially if we're going to make an exception that could lead to a precedent setting change. So we're all on the same page with our other, I think it'd be good for us to work more effectively with our other boards or agents.
Or it might be more communicating differences of interpretation. I don't know that we'd ever get to the same definition because there are various rules that govern, and there are reasons for one viewing something as new in a repair and the other not. So, but to exchange that information is good, and I think we do always try and do that with the building inspector and whoever else we get involved.
I mean, if we have time, I think it would be worthwhile. Anyway, so back to this case. Sorry about that.
And also the staff do communicate on those very issues, so we may not always see it, but when they're reviewing projects, they have the opportunity to speak with one another on that. Just to refresh my memory also, was this the one that had very limited access at the site because of
Yes.
conservation
Yes,
restrictions?
that's
So
exactly.
that's part of what he's talking about, that we had this allowance before, is because conservation had some requirements and there just wasn't enough room to do a lot of movement around the site. And
Show you, there's quite a bit of grading going on over this. The slopes are tremendous. This is basically eskers of sand around here, esker, another esker, another esker off the lake. And the slope is amazing on here. It goes from 192 up to 224. So again, over here, I was out on the site just to get a feel for it myself because I didn't do the soil testing. I was amazed too with the access there. I didn't know that was
nice
on the
spot,
back.
isn't it?
It's a beautiful spot. But again, it's tough to get into the site. And even when I went up, I had to turn the car on, so I didn't go through the ditches. But there are a lot of slope considerations, so I can support that. That's just exactly right.
right, so you see these lines that, things should not be happening, isn't this, the buffer zone?
Yes.
Wetlands, so staying out of that as much as possible. Here's the septic with the last access to get materials back there to put the sign, for example. So we didn't want it being run over along.
Yeah, it's tight.
Right, and in here, all the grades still need to come up, 2 or 3 feet. So my concern is just, before she put this in now, that, we've got to go into all of this first, and then we're just kind of delaying the project, and my plans are for Christmas.
Well, for me, the piece that's sort of compelling is to do the best to abide by the conservation restrictions and to say we want to have the best possible long-term performance of the septic, and to me, that's pretty compelling. I think what I struggle with a little bit is just that we'll have many points where we have a regulatory breakpoint that we say, okay, it's rough electric, okay, it's this, and I just worry, okay, it's the next thing, all the way up to that certificate of occupancy. And I think my concern is that in this instance, there appears to be a clear rationale that supports the larger goals of Board of Health and the Conservation Commission, and a sort of reasonable articulated rationale. But I think I worry that kind of in by Christmas or other pieces are sort of important considerations that should be separate. And really, to me, what resonates is that this clearly supports the larger goals of having best possible performance, which we'd certainly all endorse.
And there was a prior board member who always used to talk about the slippery slope, right? You keep moving the line and suddenly things are happening and you don't know how you got to that point. And so that's something we always like to do the best we can to anticipate what those issues might be. And that's why I was taking a look at the letter, and you hit the nail on the head. Was the prior system abandoned, or might someone, if it's still there, just hook up? And we don't have really strong enforcement abilities other than issuance of permits and things. But we do know that sometimes, and I'm not saying you, but sometimes people do things without permits. And it's just a difficult thing to track down after that happens. And our goal is not to be mean, but to just make sure that septic is managed as best as it can be for the benefit not only of those homeowners, but their neighbors. So, do we want to take a stab at a motion? Is anyone keen on doing that? I guess what I'd like to, I usually try to do when we're looking at things that vary from standard procedures.
You said it would only take, how long would it take to get a certificate of,
For the septic system or
Yeah.
for the actual certificate of occupancy? We
no, not for
offer
occupancy,
for the certificate of compliance for the septic system. This time of year, if your contractors or contractor is willing to move along quickly, it could be 4 to 6 weeks. That's construction.
okay, certificate of abandonment of the
Oh, that
existing well.
should be tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
That's already done.
Right,
Oh, okay.
that's been done, so who did that?
Rob.
Rob Scott. So that, I know their company would produce that if the owner requested. That shouldn't be a problem. But that should be a condition I would suggest to the motion.
Right, so it could be contingent upon receipt of the
Yes.
abandonment.
So, I guess I'll propose a motion and then see if there's anything we want to add. And the motion would be recognizing the site constraints, which includes Conservation Commission restrictions on access to portions of the site. I think that's the main one. And terrain, and the desire to preserve the integrity of the septic system by not constructing it in the path of ongoing building activities. And earthwork, okay. That we permit, what are you looking for exactly? How far? Asking the board to allow the septic to be completed subsequent to electrical finish sign-off? Or prior to? Oh, prior to.
Where are we?
To electrical finish. You want it before or after electrical finish sign-off?
So right now, the exterior work that we have to do before we can actually start to install the system is, say 4 to 6 weeks. So it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks, and then we install the septic. What that corresponds to is kind of difficult to say exactly from an interior perspective, but the way I look at this is no way. We're going to be looking for our CO in like November. So I just want to try to keep everything moving forward with that objective, including the septic. As soon as the exterior grading is done, we're going to do the septic, because that's good.
All right, so here you said we're asking the board to push out required completion date to prior to electrical finish sign-off, but maybe you're looking for something more flexible than that at the moment?
Well, I think I was just saying push it out past that.
Okay.
I wasn't actually suggesting what it should be.
Mark, do you have an idea for what we could set as a target?
Well, they're looking to do insulation, as mentioned up above in that same paragraph, and they would like to begin the installation of insulation. They would also like to do the exterior work on the actual siding, so...
Actually, is the finished grades maybe the easiest one to...
Well, this is no way,
it's relevant to the Board of Health.
There's no inspection related to that, so as I look at this, the inspections of the roughs, and then it's the insulation inspection, and then it's the finish, and that's like the final walkthrough. It's going to be final plumbing, electrical, and the building inspector and fire. So there's a big jump once the installation inspection is done. But for us, it's like even the installation is, by the time we're done with installation, we're still in the septic home plan now. So that's why I think I was suggesting a date.
Final sign-offs, I would suggest for the occupancy permit, that the septic system be installed prior to all final sign-offs for the occupancy permit. So that'd be electrical building, obviously building, electrical, plumbing, and whoever else, highway.
So that prior to before we got our final sign-off.
Yeah, that the septic be installed prior to
Did you
those
get that?
final sign-offs, so we can be in concert with them at the end.
Right.
So that would still permit the work to occur,
Pretty
just
much all
not
of
the approval, the final.
Right.
Yeah, but we can still word it that way.
Lot.
It is a bit circular there, but...
And then Mark, just from my own understanding, for the proposed workflow that we're describing for this property, from what you described earlier for new construction, it seems roughly consistent with that?
Yes.
Okay.
And just another point that came to mind is actually, I prefer to have them finish that work, especially plastering and painting. And the reason for it, I've seen septic systems with plaster and paint inside the septic tank. So that way it prevents that as well. We try to prevent it by not letting them tie in until the very end, but for new construction, and this is a new house, so that's why I'm comfortable with saying that the septic system be installed prior to final sign-off. It gives them a chance to finish everything prior.
That's interesting.
Okay, got that?
I've seen that. Which one?
Okay, and conditional to receipt
Of the-
of abandonment
within 7 days.
Documentation.
You'll get
I
that to
think,
us?
I think it's in file.
Oh, we have it on file, it's in the...
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it probably is.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay, or we could call it verification, so it could go either way. Either you need to submit something or we verify that it's in the phones. We caught everything there?
Sounds good. Can I second? Yeah.
Make the motion.
I second.
Well, you can still
Make the motion.
Some votes.
So move. Second, anybody?
I'll second that.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It just saves you from saying it all over again.
Okay, any other,
I didn't see this.
Yeah, it's not wrong yet.
okay, so Ellen, is that something you'll look in the files and if you don't find something, then you'll take it down?
It's Ron Scott. It's my Colorado.
Okay. And then she'll let you know if we need some paperwork. Okay? All right. Any other questions on that? Okay, great. All right, so it's 7:50 and we have a request for a variance from Regulation 2, Section 17.3G for several units at Abbey Road.
Great.
Would you like to?
Sure. So I guess within the context of the conversation about the particular variance, I'd like to bring something back to the board that I brought to the board at least 3, if not 4 years ago. And that is the regulation about volatile organics in the water testing. And I know you all have had, well not you all of course, although you were present, you all have had 4 or 5 public hearings on the topic, and I think there was a surprising consensus in the room about the need for a change in these regulations at the time.
And actually, if we could, we've been through the discussions extensively and we'll probably have them again, but really I'd like to focus in on this particular
And I'm getting there.
issue.
I'm starting at the broader and I'm coming down to...
I know, but
the
I
variance.
think as a educated board on this topic, I would prefer if we could narrow it into the
Well, I'm
discussion.
not sure that the members are necessarily educated.
Okay,
on
but
the
that
topic.
will be
My
the
point is-
job of the board in our discussion to cover that. I'd just like to try to keep on, not make this a public hearing because we haven't scheduled for that, to have a broader discussion about the topic, but more about your specific issue.
I guess it's frustrating not to be able to bring science and have a conversation.
We do bring it in, and you've been to enough of our discussions to know that we do consider that when we're looking at the specifics of what it is we're asked to talk about. And we always encompass what are the goals of the regulations, what's science that we have available, what other information, what standards are out there, how do we compare, what would be compelling reasons for the variance. So we do talk about that, but I don't want to turn this into
Well, I'd like to provide
an
compelling...
analysis of the regulation on another level. I just want to look at it from a variance because we're trying to stick to the...
What I'd like to do then is to provide
Well, so would you like to state though the variance that you're requesting?
I think it's in my written...
Okay, so then, all right, so maybe,
Are you going to allow me to speak? to my
well, I
request
thought
for
I
the
would review for anyone who may be listening
variance?
what the issue is. So we have, for new wells in town when they're tested, the regulations say that there is a zero tolerance for volatile organic chemicals in the well water. And so what's typically been done is often these are introduced contaminants, but not always. But when they're introduced, often with flushing, that will take care of the issue. If they chlorinated a well, for example, upon installation, then some of these compounds may show up. There is also possibility of, we do have some instances of contamination from past activities in town that may appear in certain people's wells, and then some sort of treatment is required. So, for Abbey Road, there's been some testing done on a couple of the taps for units 17 and 18, and volatiles were found. I think it's only chloroform, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yes, it's only chlorine.
So, the chloroform is at 0.84 and 0.85 micrograms per liter, which is the same as parts per billion. And so our standard is 0. The state standard and federal standards are significantly higher.
Can you clarify what that is? What the state and federal are?
Yes, I don't have.
I do.
Do you have it right in front of you? Excellent, because I know there's 70 and 80, and I always
Right,
say, so which one
the
is which?
state guideline level is 70 micrograms per liter, or ppb, and the federal is typically 80, but that's for total trihalomethane. So that's a group of chemicals, not just limited to chloroform. So the state guideline is 70 for chloroform.
So, and things that we've discussed in the past around the issue of chloroform is we had considered looking, we've had discussions on this board of looking at the MCLG, which is EPA's goal, maximum contaminant level goal. It used to be 0, but has changed, and as Lisa just mentioned, it is now at 80 for a group of chemicals. So the question is whether we grant a variance for this
Madam Chair,
particular
may I
chemical.
address the board on the topic?
So I would say,
But
We need to have a discussion ourselves.
So, just a moment.
You're not going to allow me to address the board to explain the topic and explain the request for the variance before you deliberate and make a decision. That's all I'm asking.
We're not starting to make our decision just yet, and you know from so many meetings that I like to get input from applicants or members of the public. So that will happen, but we do like to try and have some discussion up here first. I want to present your issue just so everyone knew what was going on, and we'll get to you in just a moment. Comment, question?
so I think for me, my hope is that I think in the context of a posted agenda, I think my preference would be to keep the scope narrow and focused, and it sounds like there's rich, larger discussions around it, but I'm worried that in the interest of time and a fairly robust agenda, we may not give fair due course, and for other folks who may want to voice in that, it feels a little bit like a switcheroo. So my personal bias would be I'm happy to hear the information or the perspective, but rather than kind of focus the discussion on the variances at the end, if that's
Just for the record, I'm fine with that, Matt. Just for the record, I sent a request for the broader topic to be added to your agenda on Friday and did not receive a response back from this board. So I did ask that it be more broadly, and not to have a public hearing, but just have a broader conversation about, I think, a little while ago you made a really important point, which is the unintended consequences and what are the overriding goals of health and conservation in our town. And this particular rule has very, very significant unintended consequences. Abbey Road will have flushed in the next couple of weeks somewhere between 200,000 and 250,000 gallons of water to waste. Because we had 1/1000th of the EPA drinking water standard of one chemical and less than 1% of another chemical. And it seems like wasting, sitting right next to Woodhaven's water supply and other folks across the street, for me to waste 250,000 gallons of water, I just find appalling public policy. And that's why I asked on Friday, with a new board coming in, I said, because I've been stonewalled on this topic for 3 years by the former board. I saw 2 new people come in I said, let's have a conversation because as we speak, I'm dumping thousands of gallons of water to waste.
Okay, thank you. I would like to point out that when your request came in, a couple of things. The way, there were two aspects of how you worded it. As I said, when we look at variances, we do talk about other issues and how that affects a decision that we may be making on the variance. But the water discussion that you want to have, I think, is more appropriate to have as part of a public hearing, which we did not that long ago on this topic specifically. And it's, you know,
And you took no
it's
action.
my interest.
And you took no action.
The board took no action at the time, correct. It is my hope that we will revisit this again, but that's something for the new board to decide about. And I think it's inappropriate to try to have that broader discussion without advance notice, even though the drinking water regulations don't, for us to make a change to them doesn't require that we have a public hearing. It's what's always been done, and I really think it's a good practice to give people the opportunity to weigh in. And so there was not enough notice, because normally there's a fair amount of lead time before we have a public hearing on a matter, and I don't think it would have been
Just to clarify,
proper
my
to do that
my Friday
for
email
this.
was not a request to have a public hearing.
No, but
It
the
was a
nature
request
of
to
part of the
discuss-
discussion that you asked for.
Can you let me finish my sentence, please?
No, because I would like to finish what I was saying as well. So, as I explained, what you asked for, part of it we do talk about all the time when we discuss variances, so that request was moot in the sense that we do it. And what you just mentioned is having the broader discussion I just explained is not appropriate, I don't think, without giving better notification to people and also giving the board, as you mentioned, new members a chance to prepare to have that discussion.
Now may I speak? Just a minute.
Certainly. On the topic of your
I
variance,
just want to clarify the record that I was not asking for a public hearing on Friday. I was asking on Friday, and I emailed, and I have not received any response from the board, which is very typical, that I don't ever receive responses from the board. But I was seeking to have a conversation that I thought was important for our community, not a public hearing, but a conversation about wasting 250,000 gallons of water if you go from 1% to 0 of the drinking water standard.
okay, you've mentioned that point already, and if the water is being discharged onto the ground in a manner that it can re-infiltrate, it's not necessarily wasting the water. And that's a different topic, but all right, so if I can, do you have any other
Can I ask a quick question?
points? Yes, please.
Are there any requirements on the volume of flushing that is asked to occur, or is that done on a performance basis to the point that your engineer believes that it will eradicate the negligible
It
levels?
has to, so where we are right now is we were at 0.8 micrograms.
Yeah.
I tested, again, actually since that 0.8, and now I'm at 0.6. And I'm still flushing tonight thousands of gallons of water to waste because until I test below the tolerance for the test,
It's 0.5.
which is 0.5, right? So I'm at 0.6.
I guess one question I have, Bob, so knowing that the variance was being discussed and it's quite possible that it would be applied, I'm curious about the timing in terms of why not wait a day to see what the board said before making the decision to waste?
Because I have a closing, and I can't, and my experience, honestly, my honest answer is that the board, the historic board, not the new board, but the historic board was never going to provide this variance. And so why would I wait? You know,
Well, again, I think for me there's a little disconnect as we talk about the catastrophic impact of high volume waste. It's a little bit difficult to reconcile with a one-day difference. My hope is that you'll kind of give us, as the new board, a chance to define our own identity.
Sure.
If I can just ask a second question, just because I'm not savvy to building, what are the implications for you as a builder or for future homeowners, the fact that this variance exists? Are there secondary implications for a variance versus a change in town policies or regulations? So
So as a practical matter, if I understand your
if
question.
a variance were granted,
Yeah.
the fact that a variance was required, what are the implications for you, if any, as a builder or developer?
Again, I'm not 100% sure I understand the question, but I'll answer and we'll see. So I don't believe there's really any difference if you change the regulation and I can stop flushing, or if you give me a variance and I can stop flushing. Okay? The kind of bad place that you end up in, okay, is if, let's say, I had to close tomorrow. Then what I have to do is put a deed recording saying that I have a half a microgram or 0.6
Because you haven't hit the threshold that's
because
after
I'm not below
being
0.5.
It has to be non-detectable.
It's non-detect, that's right. And that, and I could flush for another few days and pass. There's no mechanism for ever removing that deed recording. And the problem is that all the people sitting in this room that know, we all know that 0.6 micrograms of chloroform, when Ashland, where Mr. Orm is a health agent, their town water has 45 micrograms all the time.
Right, because it's a chlorinated water supply.
Of course. And so is mine temporarily.
Right.
I put chlorine in to get the bacteria out.
Right, and from a health perspective, you know, obviously you don't want bacteria, you know, impacting people's water supplies. Can I just provide a little context? So I think the concern that probably I have and Matt and others have is, okay, if we did grant this variance for this particular compound in this particular situation at these particular levels, what's the next variance request going to be? Is it going to be, look, I have, you know, trichloroethylene at 4 micrograms per liter. The MCL is 5 micrograms per liter. It's a carcinogen. It causes fetal, you know, cardiac malformations. You know, you granted one for him. Why aren't you granting one for us? And I'm not saying that that's an analogous severity,
Of course it's not.
but that's obviously the concern that we're dealing with. However, I will say that I also looked into things like the Dover water supply, which is it's considered a public supply, but you know, obviously Dover is right next door. It's more, I look at it more as a community sort of well, and their level of chloroform the average has been around 0.45, 0.5, which is right at the detection limit, and the one of the more recent maximum levels I saw was about 0.9, 0.95, so just a little bit under a microgram, pretty
Holliston actually just reported
consistent.
88. Holliston just sent out an email to everyone in town. Yeah, 88 micrograms.
Yeah.
And they didn't tell people not to drink it.
Right.
Right, but I mean, that is actually over the standard. And so I think that is an area though, in terms of the regulations, that I think we are interested in revisiting. And I don't, even though I understand you didn't ask for a public hearing, that's what it really turns into, because it turns into philosophical and broader conversations that we have about trying to protect the resources and health of everyone who drinks water in this town. So I understand where you're coming from, but I also understand that it could never be a contained conversation, and I share, you know, Daryl's observations that it's probably something a lot of people have opinions on, and that we should at least give one more maybe opportunity to talk about maybe some ideas that we're having, hear the reaction from the public, and then we can take an action about whether we're going to be revising the regulations. So
And I'd like to also make a comment when you're done.
So I think, you know, this level, based on my research on how the standards were set, I do not believe it poses the potential for a health risk at the kinds of concentrations that are being described. I know that the 70 actually has a number of uncertainty factors and safety factors that were put into that number. If this makes it feel better, it's around 1,000. So they looked at, you know, the lowest level that caused an effect in beagles in this case, and then they added another factor of 10 for interspecies variation and another factor of 10. So this isn't a number that was based right on the level that they think is going to be causing an effect. There's a number of layers of uncertainty factors and safety factors that are built into the standard. So I'm not leaning one way or the other, and just making sure factually that people understand that that 70 isn't a number that we're actually expecting affects that. That's a number that incorporates safety
Let me
factors.
just point out one more fact about this.
I would like to speak first, and I think that you're in the audience. Are you done?
Yes.
So I actually was not, this is the first time that I've been involved with any conversations with you about this, because I had a family emergency and was not present at the hearing where you referred to the old board. So I've been on the board for 2 years, but I've never discussed this with you. So
There were actually 4 public hearings on the topic.
your specific variance request, this is the first
Well,
time
I'm sorry,
I've
you said
had a
public hearings.
conversation.
You were at the 4 public hearings on this.
Okay, she meant public meeting, so just,
Oh.
and the variance last one.
At the last meeting,
She meant me.
we discussed this request. I was not present for the discussion. I missed it because of a family emergency. So this is the first time that I'm having a conversation with you about your specific request. As a physician, in my research on chloroform in drinking water, it's not the presence of the water in the of chloroform in the drinking water that is most concerning. Because the chloroform doesn't actually cause particularly carcinogenic risks through skin contact, which is why it's safe to swim in chlorinated pools. However, the biggest risk is inhalation of the fumes, and this happens in the shower. The reason that the standards have been questioned and where the uncertainty arises has to do with the lack of information about long-term exposures at very low doses. Well, we don't have that research, and the problem is in the water supply, which will not only be drinking water, but it will also be what is inhaled on a daily basis in the shower and other exposures for residents of a community such as, or a residence community such as Abbey Road. From a public health perspective, it's the uncertainties that make the standards questionable, but it's also the uncertainties that the uncertainties sort of go on both sides of the argument. So we don't have the information, and I think there are benefits to the community to having zero tolerance for something which is known to be a volatile organic compound and carcinogenic with numerous tumors and other, unfortunately, epidemiologic evidence, which mostly comes from the use of chloroform as an anesthetic. It was used in surgery as an anesthetic, and there were increased numbers of tumors in patients who received it. So this is something that we absolutely need to talk about in a bigger context for whether we change the regulations. In your case, because it was deemed a private water supply by the DEP, it will not be regulated, it will not be tested on an ongoing basis. I personally...
It will be tested on an ongoing basis, but go ahead.
Well, that's wonderful, but what I don't know is that's not enforceable by law. And so because it's a private water supply. So by law, the drinking water protection doesn't apply, as you know. So we, as a Board of Health, have to consider some of the other issues which may not be as unobserved in a public water supply where it's tested and regulated by the DEP in other towns. And I personally think we have to have the discussion and decide what the risks and benefits are.
I guess the question I would have is, you sort of, to me, there's a piece of this, it's like 211 Farm, which is there's a context about the scenario. So there was bacterial counts, there was chlorination. This is an expected effect of chlorination. So trying to think about what the right solution would be if we said we don't want so I think there's a false parallel to the public water supplies, because this isn't. We don't have chlorinated water, so I think drawing parallels to public systems that are chlorinated, like saying there's a lot more chlorine in my pool, but you let my kids swim there. Yes, different scenario. But at the same time, I think when we're talking about orders of magnitude from public thresholds and best available data, I think that you were again trying to do a larger piece that we would be supportive of, which is ensuring a sterile water supply. A side effect of that is byproducts of chlorination, which this is. our best available data is that this is within the parameters from a public safety standpoint that are defined in public water supplies. So for questions of aerosolization or shower exposure, it would seem that those risks are no different than our neighbors in other towns. To me, it's again a question of, I would be much less comfortable with a broad change in this context, but for the specifics of the scenario, much like I'd be uncomfortable with a global change, 211 Farm has specific things that make this make sense. And so to me, that's kind of where it resonates a little bit more, that it's hard for me to imagine what you could have done to address the concerns that would have been raised by the bacterial presence that wouldn't have led to this outcome.
Let me just...
So I would say that's an interesting, in a moment. No, I would like to speak to the board member. So I think it's an interesting point in that it was a chemical used to address another
Public health issue.
water quality issue. Now, it's a little complicated by the fact that there is a 21 East site downtown that appears to have affected a number of wells in this vicinity. So there's a chance that it's not strictly related to the chlorination, but there's a good chance that at least that's been a contributing factor to it. I will get to you. I will not ignore you. Don't worry. So,
I'm interested
Like
in
the-
seeing repeat testing after all the flushing to see if it made a difference.
It sounds
To
like-
differentiate.
So could you, so,
Can I give a set of facts to address what...
yeah, so you said you sampled it a second time.
Yeah, so let me give you the facts here. This is what's so wrong is the concept that there's a possibility that this is in the ground just doesn't work for the fact pattern that we have here, okay? So let's go back in time. We dig the well. We test.
How deep is the well?
The well, that particular well is 1,000 feet deep.
1,000 feet.
1,000. We dig the well. We test for volatile organics at the well. You know, that's your regulation is first you test at the well. We test at the well. We have no chloroform, zero, non-detected. Okay. Then when the Williamses and another family moved in to the building that is serviced by this well, we are required by your regulations to test again for each of those 3 homes.
At the tap.
At the tap, right. So I did that. There was no chloroform there, okay? So I've now tested this water 4 times and found no chloroform, okay? But you know what I did find? When I found bacteria. So I put chlorine in. I got rid of the bacteria. The Williamses and the other family were able to move into their home because I got rid of the bacteria. Okay. Fast forward now, I've finished the next building, which is also certified as well. Guess what? I got a microgram of chloroform. It came from, in other words, I have 4 tests showing 0. So unless your suggestion is that it just suddenly appeared in the last couple of months and that this, theoretical plume just popped up and now I have 1 microgram of chloroform in the well, I just find it scientifically absurd given the facts that it's in the ground. It's not.
Do we have a copy of that test where it's 0?
Yes, you have all 4 tests that were 0 and it's the same water.
Okay.
I put the chlorine in after those 4 tests. I have 1 microgram, I test again. I waste a bunch of water, I have 0.8. I waste a bunch of water, I have 0.6. It's insanity to me.
Sorry, I'd like to make a motion, we can continue discussion, but to move this along, I see we have a number of people, I'm not sure why they're here, but maybe there are other issues to address this evening. So, I'd like to make a motion, or suggest a motion that in recognition of the need to disinfect the well and the apparent resulting detection of chloroform at less than 1 microgram per liter, that we grant a variance to section 17.3G for units 17 and 18 at Abbey Road. And then anyone can amend that as needed, so.
I second.
Okay, and any other discussion on this?
I just want to see a copy of the test that shows that it's non-detect.
You have it in
We
the
should
file?
have it. No, but I can't remember something from 2 months ago in this long of chemical stuff.
So you need to look at the original well test for well number 1.
Yeah.
You need to look at the tap test for home number 10.
Why don't you repeat the test?
Well, why don't you just vote?
Well 1, this is well 3.
Now to show that the flushing works.
Oh, excuse me.
Why are we not doing
Sorry, so this is 1, 2,
This
it's 1, 2, and 3 that I showed you
flushing.
non-detect.
Oh, yeah.
You're right.
So,
So this is
Too
well
high.
3, which is in
do we have a non-detect on well 3?
And well 4.
Okay, that's what I
So-
remember.
so
And
units
number
17
1,
and-
number 2, and number 3. I apologize, I had the numbers wrong.
Okay, so units 17 and 18 are served by well 3.
They're served by well 3 and well 4. That's correct. And but the same fact pattern applies. It's just, I was wrong on the well number and the unit numbers.
So,
Just so, as a review, so when the well is drilled, the well is tested, and then when the home is built and there are taps to test, then there are tap tests done, because as they found, there was somehow contamination was possibly introduced in the piping system during construction activities, and so they were pretty high levels of that bacteria, and therefore it was disinfected and all that. So those are the two, so that's
Well,
what
there's
Ellen is
no
looking at.
chloroform. The test for well 3, May 16 to 2014, there was no chloroform, there was toluene. But that was,
And then that was subsequently flushed out.
Yeah.
Again, that's what I
Yeah.
call flushing
so you have a second well test that was non-detect?
for toluene. The first well test was non-detect.
Two consecutive?
Same test.
So why don't we just get
Chloroform on
another?
toluene.
What was the date of this
That's
test?
a requirement of the board.
Right.
This date was in March. Why don't you do another one now or a month later?
He said he did.
Yeah.
2014.
I mean, I think we can also, like from my standpoint, a retest from what's been described. I'd rather vote on the motion than kind of add a lot of things to it, because it seems like we're adding separate questions. Would it be possible to vote on the motion, and then if there are amendments, because it doesn't sound like there was a description of a contingency here. You've described informal testing that the board doesn't have, but at the same time, most of our discussion has been in the context of, here's what we see so far, and it doesn't seem like it's contingent on the non-disclosed testing, and so I'm not sure that broadening the scope is adding a lot.
Okay, but what you bring up that we might do is, so we have these results, but I don't know if the agent has had a chance to review this, the agent who's assigned to Abbey Road, so what we'd like to have is unofficially review it, we look at it, but since that is the person who needs to do the sign off, we need to be able to do that. And I think you've indicated that you have a second test, so we could consider whether we amend that along the lines of 2 consecutive clean tests, that there are 2 tests with
Less than one.
values, yeah, and that would suffice. And if you have that data already, it sounds like,
I'm
then
sorry, I have not been able to follow what you just said.
So if you have the testing, if you could send us the testing, that would be swell.
The more recent testing that you said had .66.
and that would qualify as 2 consecutive tests that would fall within what we're talking about if we vote to grant the variance, right? Just like, so that it shows that it's not .84 here and then
2.
83.
Correct.
Right.
And the next one.
Yeah.
So, but it sounded like you've already done that, so that I presume is not high.
Right, and the fact that it wasn't in the well initially, and that this shows this is related to the mitigative measure that was taken to address a public health issue, I think shows that it's a transient condition and at pretty negligible concentration, so.
Does anyone see any need for deep recording on this? I'm not proposing, just asking.
I do not.
I do not.
Well, I actually do. Sorry. Because of the carcinogenicity and the uncertainty, but that's my personal view, so. if that's in the regulations, I would stick to the regulations until we change them.
And it doesn't sound like it's in the regulations. A variance would obviate the need for a deed
Yeah,
restriction. So if we closed without a variance, a deed restriction would be required. If a variance is provided, a deed restriction is not required.
No, a deed restriction will never be required because I will continue to flush until it goes.
Okay.
And
But
fine.
again, speaking in the abstract,
I-
the scenario where a deed restriction would be required would be in the absence of regulatory change or variance, correct? So it sounds like in this case, a deed restriction would not be required because a variance would be provided.
So, I think they'd like to amend the motion to require that we have data of 2 subsequent tap tests that show the level below 1. I think so. Might be granted.
And that be provided to the agent.
Yes. Because that's the person who's ultimately going to issue and sign off on it, because he's done all the research on all phases of this, to sign the certificate of completion. Compliance.
Who's that seconding that amendment?
I second the,
And agreed.
And, okay, any other discussion? We ready?
So is there a vote on that?
No, we're about to take a
Okay.
vote. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right. Okay, now, notice that we have a number of people here. Are there particular issues that folks are here
We
for?
could go right down, if the board so wishes, the agent's business. I believe the first one listed, I don't believe, David Parrish is right here and asked if it was on the agenda. So if the board so wishes, I'll go in order of the agenda. I don't know who showed up after David, so I wasn't watching up there. It's up to the board. I'll let you decide, Madam Chair.
Let's take David and then we'll figure out March for the other issues.
60 Brush Hill Road, the applicant's asking to add an additional well to the present property. Or, the old board, if we want to call you the old board, I was in the previous board, it doesn't sound good because if it says old, I'm really old. So, with that, first off, nice to meet both of you, I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to say hello. Say hello first. This is a property that was existing right now with an older farmhouse. And the board held for consent, the board granted the repair of the septic system. And the reason they did is it was for the farmhouse, and they did it right up here so you can get the picture of the property. And that's the one thing you have to be careful when you're moving plans around here is hitting the mic. I know our gentleman back there would not appreciate a cable person. So, this is the existing property, and you come in the driveway here. It's a tight corner right here in Brush Hill. Everything else that corner, yeah, cottage right on the edge. So you come up the driveway and they put a new septic system down here. And this wasn't part of the original proposal, but David came back and they asked to put, after the system was in place, they had a tear down, put in a new house. And it met all our requirements for that. And presently they have 2 wells on the property, a well right here and a well right there. The proposal is...
bedrock wells?
This one is 700 feet, 4 gallons a minute. This one is going to be abandoned.
Okay.
I think the direction of this is trying to.
So that's going to be decommissioned.
Exactly. Yeah, when we demo the house, we're going to shoot that one.
But this plan helps to see the campus, I will call it, and they are planning to keep the barn, that's where the well. And they are showing that this is to be abandoned. System, private well. And I believe that's your intent, to abandon that well and keep the old well. And then put in this new well closer to where the new house is being built. Meets all our requirements as it relates to distance to other people's septic systems. And that's why I believe the engineer went more this way than that way. That's why I brought the existing plan out. So he could show that this distances to property line, the abutter's property are being met. And that is the request of the applicant, and it does meet our requirements if the board decides to approve it. I would recommend approval based on that. But we typically discuss the existing wells during these reviews because at a certain point, how many wells should a property have? It's always been a very unique question, you know, and are they going to stay unattended is the main issue. So if you were getting a delivery of oil or something and it spilled in that area and everyone forgot, oh no, there's a 700-foot well there. So I think it's always been the intention of the board to make sure it's an active well, at least as a minimum. And the issue of how many wells do you need was the purpose.
Right, so what is the plan for the well that's there?
So this is the one that you said you're going to abandon.
Right, so
And that one,
yeah, so this house from here down will be removed or raised. It's a stone structure here that we would keep. The existing garage we're going to keep, the existing barn we're going to keep. The chicken coop's already been removed, and then there's a sugar shack here. So all of these structures will be kept. Right now, this well is servicing the existing barn, and then there's access.
This well.
This well is servicing this barn.
Okay.
Right. So originally, we said, okay, we're going to build a new house, we're going to hook it up to, well, this sugar shack is better production there, but then push came to shove, and we're like, maybe we should just build a new dedicated well for the new home, and then have a dedicated well for the outbuildings, just to make a little bit more sense, especially given the production on this is only 4 gallons per minute, which means we're going to have to go frack it or drill deeper, or do something along those lines to increase the production.
And just as a quick note, I'm sorry to interrupt. This well, they did show the radius around it as well. It's the main distances to, it's an uphill run to the septic. It's to their own septic as well as the one proposing right here.
And you said that the proposed new well meets all of the setback requirements
Yes.
and distance requirements.
so I'm just going to ask this, although we don't normally consider it in the course of activity, but I thought I had some recollection that this property owner was talking about doing something.
They built a new well,
different.
actually,
Okay.
just recently.
Is that the new well?
So it didn't
Yeah.
have anything to do with trying to locate the septic or because I just couldn't remember what their issue had been.
It's here,
Okay.
and there's new well, existing well is here. The new well is closer here, I don't have that plan.
It's close to it.
Yeah, this is the existing one.
Oh.
So you're still up there from.
So actually,
75
once
feet.
you do the radius, then it
Yeah.
actually cuts out. Okay,
Yeah, but
that's fine.
there'll be limitations to their septic, pretty much, if you lose this, or maybe up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but
That's
since
the
they're
question.
overlapping circles
Yes.
to a fair degree, then it's not. Okay. And again, it's something that we don't have.
If you want to see where their new wells
Where
are,
is
I'll
it?
pull their plan
No,
out.
that's right.
So if it meets all the requirements, we still have to provide an approval.
We address any existing wells at the same time, to see if indeed it fits the environment. You get lots that may be 1 acre or less, could be affecting other people's water supplies. That's why, and other issues such as their property availability, because they may be protecting the septic. The other thing too is that we do require that the well be 75 feet to any other well, so that they don't draw down on someone else's well.
Can I just, for my own education, what, if any, implications are there for the presence of a pool? Is that supplied by the well? Is that something we consider either?
They obviously, most people will use their well water and just fill it in slow, but if it's a low producing well, sometimes they bring it to the trunk.
And that is nothing that we need to consider from kind of making decisions about this plan, this initiative?
No, this is a domestic
This
well.
is actually going to be
Ah,
The
perfect.
pool.
Yeah, then I'm happy to not learn
Oh,
right now.
Because that's right, you have a pool down there.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but yes.
We might want to, the only thing I can think of, because it's come up a few times recently, is to have a condition that the two wells not be interconnected without coming back with a plan to ensure, provisions for cross connection and unintentional flows from one to the other if one is contaminated. So as long as they remain separate.
Hydraulically distinct.
Well, we don't know the quality of this well. I don't believe it was well made, but do you know this? I don't know the history.
It's not that old.
We may know
I'm
the
gonna say,
quality.
I'm gonna say 15 years.
You know, I think I remember that well. So we do have some quality tests on it, but we don't know the quality data as of today. So to interconnect, we may be contaminating water. If this did become contaminated over the years that it was drilled, from the time it was drilled to the new one, that's the other reason for interconnection.
So what's the use of the well supplying the barn? Is it for
There's all packets,
potable?
there's all packets.
So all wells in town have to be.
The new ones?
Yeah.
Are requirements, so they're all potable.
They didn't bother me while you put in the system. So they're going over the wall and say, okay, everyone stay put. I'm not a farmer. Rob told me not to worry, but I still kept an eye out.
It's llamas that are mean, right? The llamas.
I didn't, he didn't tell me.
Spitters.
They're like the guard llamas.
You want a llama?
That's as far as that's my
That
life.
sounds pretty reasonable.
And what did you say the proposed depth of the new ones?
I don't know what they'll basically drill until we probably have 5 or 6 gallons. It could be 400.
Yeah, I mean typically at least are at least
Typically,
400,
it
500.
seems like that 300 to 400 range. Typically, some people hit it good and they go 200 feet and boom, they get all these fissures.
Very massive, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
not all.
Do you have any objection to this being conditional to abandonment of this well?
No, well, this house is straight and we want to drill this, we don't want to touch the new house, but we could do it, maybe have with the removal of this on that. Raising this.
I think you could build that into as a condition because obviously this cannot be connected to the septic system once you decide to use it for the house. So maybe you can make the condition that prior to occupancy of the new house, obviously you can't have the old house so that the well is abandoned prior to occupancy.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Sure, well now, we
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah, no, so I think what Mark just mentioned should work. So,
So we'll have that house hopefully then, because you can't.
so I propose that a motion that you're recommending approval of
The well conditional to the over, the well at the house, closest to the house, being abandoned at the time of the house here, prior to the occupancy of the new house. So kind of-
Both those things.
But this would actually be occupied before this is demolished.
Well, we're
I want to
saying,
make sure that's.
Right.
we wanna make sure the well's abandoned.
But if somebody's living there, then
They
they
can't
don't need a
live
well,
there.
right?
Or they-
So,
right.
so you could abandon that prior to,
Because usually, I guess what we'll do is we would disconnect it from this house, hook it up to the new house, get our CO, they would move in, and then come in and demolish. the
But you could
existing
still,
well.
you could abandon this well prior to them occupying this house.
because you're not going to connect this house at any time
We
to
could do that at the
this,
same
right?
time,
That
we
would
could
sure-
we could do that at the same time. that we connect.
I think that's what we're saying.
Yeah, it's another control.
Double
Honestly,
suspenders.
that no one's living in this house by the time you're ready to occupy this house. There's no need for that well.
So should we tie that to the connections for the new septic for the new house?
You could do that, so as you put in the new septic tank here and go down to the existing septic system, you're gonna need to disconnect the old house from it.
Right.
So which tanks
So
are...
Once you can't flush, you don't need to fill it.
Actually, you have to the tanks, so you disconnect them all right now, it goes up to the house here. So you could all, it all should blend in well together, but it's reasonable control. Because, you know, by the time you get your occupancy permit, I expect you're not gonna have occupancy in the house.
Right.
So it's helpful. Pardon the pun.
I was just gonna say that.
So I move that we approve the well, subject,
Certificate of occupancy, I thought we were gonna look into.
I'm trying to decide how we refer to, well, noting that the, what do we want to call this, existing private well, the existing private well to the north, west of the proposed dwelling, not be connected to the proposed dwelling water supply system.
To the northwest of the what?
Of the proposed dwelling. I'm trying to distinguish between the one that will be abandoned that's to the west.
That's the northeast one, northeast.
No, that's northwest.
No, she's saying northwest of the proposed
Oh,
dwelling.
okay, yes, yeah, and then, the proposed one.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I'm going off the existing property, so.
Let's see, so we have that and that certificate of occupancy, certificate of compliance from us, right? Because the CO comes from
Well,
building
we
inspector.
signed it also, so prior, and so we wouldn't sign it if that was.
Oh, all right, and that the certificate of occupancy will not be issued for the proposed dwelling until the existing private well to the west of the proposed dwelling is abandoned. How's that?
It all connects to those.
Okay.
And
Sounds like we'd like to move that.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And you know, David, before you tie in the septic system, you know how she got abandoned. So they're all kind of the same concept. When you go to tie in this house to the septic system, this house has to be this kind. Yeah. Okay, just so. Same concept.
Yeah, what? Yes. Okay. Do you know what everyone's here for?
Well, I know
Mark?
someone's here from 16 Mason Hill Road, I see them here. And I don't know who's here, if any, oh yes, 46 Weston Ave. I don't know who came in first, and I don't know who the gentleman is over there in the blue shirt.
This is Jim Gloria, he's our...
He's with you, okay. So who came in first of your two groups? Okay, so that would be 16 Mason Hill Lane, Road?
Okay.
Mason Hill Lane.
Wait.
Yeah, just on the agenda, there is a correction, it is 16 Mason Hill Lane. One second. If you have the actual plans I was gonna show them, which is the barn in here, I can let you get that. Oh, it's the same plan.
Yeah, there's the old minutes when we discussed this. It's in the packet.
Oh, you have, well, this is a nice plan, to see too, this is doing some colorful schematics, and if you have a revised, that's my album. Just so the board knows, this is for a requested building application. The board has seen this previously. These are some schematics, architectural schematics of the proposed.
This is Mason Hill Road. Lane.
So is that where,
So this is
between,
Lane.
Although it says road on here,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
It is lane, there's
It is lane.
a road, there's a
Okay.
lane, so it should be. And it came in as a, came in for a request to go with a proposed barn, as you can see from the pictures. And, sorry, there's the barn proposal and the house we've already examined on February 14th. And this is the proposed barn. And, but this has changed, you said.
That was the same.
It's the same as what you have here. Oh, okay, so that one's good. So this is, let's see. Yes. Just want to change. So what you would change was, you showed the apartment, but you filled in here. So this apartment was filled in for more information. They wish to put an apartment within the proposed barn that they're signing on. And they also are planning to install some heating, which is like, what are you planning on for it? Do you have plumbing on first?
sink, kitchenette type sink there and the bathroom.
Is that a full bath or?
Just about.
The only question I would have before we go to the, are you planning any washing machines or stall
Yeah,
washing machines?
we're putting on clothes washing type machines. Sure.
They typically cause havoc with the septic system. We had someone on Whitney that lost their septic system.
For the apartment.
Sorry, for the horses, the blankets, the horse.
We don't wash horse blankets, we send those out.
Yeah, good move, because it really causes havoc to see.
You know, we wash it out beds, we're not going to.
And we recommend too that you make sure that the water, if you're washing horses, that you just let it go around, not to try to capture.
Horse washing won't go into the septic.
Good. We'd rather see it just on the ground, have a dirty type ground. So with that said, they had their house evaluated, and you have the minutes, and I'll let you present it and let the board review pass this.
Well, there's actually several phases to this project. The current application is for a foundation permit for the arena plans here, right? So this is the existing dwelling right here. There's an existing barn right here. And the current application is for the foundation for this indoor riding arena, 216 by 170, actually 216 feet by 70 feet. And that's the first phase. And at the same time, we also do a foundation for the barn structure that we see here. This is still under development, it's still being designed. But this is a pre-engineered building, the arena, and their stamp plans have been submitted, I believe, with this application, and along with the foundation design. So we're seeking to get approval of that portion right now. And then the second phase, once this barn is completed, we'll apply for another building permit for the barn portion, which you see here.
And is this apartment above this portion
Yes.
here?
So
This sits.
And so,
And
Mark,
so-
our general issue last time, just to kind
Yeah,
of
that's what I was
summarize,
gonna wrap, yeah.
overview, and it's in the notes, is that we were just trying to say that their existing septic system had capacity for the changes that were going on and how to balance it. So have you, just as, before we go
So-
through the details?
Well, now that the rooms are shown, they were allowed 2 additional rooms. So, but you see there's more than 2 additional rooms. There's the meeting room. I don't know how the board wants to look at this, but room count wise, what we reviewed last time was what I saw on February 14th, and that was that I reported that I visited the property and that the existing house has 8 rooms with 1 finish room, exercise room, and a basement for a total of 9. It's a 4-bedroom design septic system, and Paul Saunier had noted 2 more rooms in the barn. So discussion took place and on the deed recording, and then following further discussion at the bottom, the 4th to last sentence, it noted, following further discussion, there was agreement that the deed recording should state that the existing septic system was designed for 4 bedrooms, but the house has a total of 5 bedrooms. The total room count should also be stated. So 5 bedrooms, they're allowed up to 11 rooms. So it's a matter of 2 additional rooms being allowed past the 9 that exist. And I don't know if we're going to exceed it now with this proposal. That's why I brought it to you. And it appears, and see, I haven't seen the room count in the apartment, so if I do see it. But let me just take a look here. So this is the apartment. We have a bedroom, and kind of the kitchen here. This is a dining area, bedroom, open
It's a
area.
studio apartment,
I see.
it's basically only, but the room downstairs that you're calling the meeting
I
room
saw it.
is there will be chairs, because there's a window so you can look into the arena, but it's basically, it's a pack room, which is like every bar in that have. So we're merging a tack room with a viewing room where people can look out the window into the indoor riding arena. So this is just representative because we think people could sit on the chairs if you're careful. But it's.
So if your kids were out there, you could watch your kids out riding
And
and
then
doing things.
this is like for people who are gonna occupy both people and horses in these stalls, and then this is a little room for us to keep our own stuff, so that we can.
So was the bathroom going to be upstairs or
No, there's a
downstairs?
bathroom downstairs for use by people in the barn. It's also designed to be a handicap accessible barn. There's going to be a ramp that will walk the horses down to the arena, which will be lower, but it will also be ADA compliant because I want to run a therapeutic riding barn. So
Where's the bathroom?
here,
Oh, there it is, okay, now I can see it.
So,
I was trying to-
it seems like there are two barns around here who use porta potties, but they're not.
Someone could have 50 bathrooms.
Right.
So the other thing is,
Anyway,
I'm going to
that's-
ask you a
that's
question
what's there.
because the answer could potentially make this, some of the discussion moot. Is that room going to be heated?
This room,
Yeah.
it has to be. You can't keep tack. Well, you could, but a room.
So this is replacing a smaller tack room that's in this building.
Right, this right
that's
now
our
is
one
the
room for-
existing tack room.
Is that existing tack room included in the baseline counts? Are we just making a room?
No,
It was
so-
never
We
considered.
were talking just of the hired hand and just stalls, but now it's turned into a business. And I think that was the original intent. I think you may have been discussing, I know you talked with me about it, the possibility of specialized riding programs. But it comes to light that there could be additional flow from, the fact that now you have, which I understand why you want it, but you have the bathroom for people that may be participating, might be riding it or the use of the stalls. So it does add additional flow. It's a matter of how the board wants to handle that.
Yeah, what's happened with the other commercial?
There's
This
one on the
is
front,
riding
off of Great
establishments.
Rock Road. I don't know if they're still there, but they put in water toilets because they didn't have a septic system. Is that still there? And then, what's the other one? No, we got a driving right between.
There's something on
Weston
Great
Ave
Rock.
And Gothic, in that area, there's a.
Yeah, there is.
Willow tree.
But I don't know if they're commercialized.
Well, they're more commercial than we are. Well, I mean, they take boarders and have lessons. We will have a few boarders and like call commercial if you call this commercial, but it's going to be mostly a non-profit, community oriented. Oh, it's absolutely, but the saying is, how to make some money owning a barn. A small amount of money running barns, you start with a lot of money. So, this will not be a very busy situation. And we own 6 horses, so there's only gonna be room for a couple.
So the suggestion would be that maybe a condition could be that they check their septic system, as we suggest anyways, or we could require as a condition on a yearly basis to make sure it's not starting to interfere with the potential for the system to be seeing some of the flaws. So, suggestion.
And there's not gonna, in the studio part, there's not gonna be a second bathroom?
Oh, no, there is that.
There is. Okay. So there's a full, you're adding basically 1.5.
Yeah, foot
Okay.
downstairs.
And the use here will be whoever lives here. It could be up to 2 people for a bedroom, so you could have 2 people living in this studio. We have looked at studios, 2 or 3 rooms, it's up to the board as well. As they sometimes separate the kitchen from the living
Yeah,
space.
because if it was a modern home in town, you would look at it as 2 rooms. Since it's an apartment, I don't know what's been done in the past. I don't think I've seen an apartment since I've,
Case by case.
yeah.
They're gonna need a deed recording, maybe that all gets put into it, just so we're gonna advise this down the road. If you were to sell, say, in 2 years, because you just didn't, the money just wasn't there. Well, you just said it. You said money.
No, I just said that it's a labor of love.
It is a labor.
We go into it with our eyes open, knowing we will not make any money.
But at some
we would probably want to make sure the new owners realize this is not for commercial riding and big shows every weekend, but the system, it protects. people.
So the pinch points I see are that if in the past discussion, we came up with 2 more rooms for possibilities. So then it becomes, do we call this 1 room or 2 room? Because there's 1 room, so is this 1 or 2? And do we consider this a room or it's a bar and tack room as it's labeled, which is different than a dwelling room because it all comes down to room count, how many people are going to live there, contribute to a septic system.
So it's not routinely occupied.
This is existing tack room is also heated. So basically, this
You're
is
just
gonna
replacing.
become where we put grain, bags of grain.
Storage.
And we are, I mean, it's getting.
And you can heat it, it's just, if it was unheated, then we don't have those. So that's why I was
But this
asking.
is already.
We'll just have to analyze a little harder.
And replacing it with a larger car.
But
But you're
sort of
keeping-
room count, we're not counting
We're
the
not
existing
using
room.
This
all.
room is going to be one.
Okay,
So we don't
Okay.
count stalls and barns.
okay.
I don't
So
think
what
we
makes
counted
a
a
room
tack
a
room and a
room?
barn, it's only because this one has this table and
Well,
chairs that makes it look
That's
different.
a,
That's what we just need
An
to
artistic
decide.
rendering? So, but is the sort of cutoff if it's routinely occupied for habitation or not?
Because like an exercise room could be an exercise room now, and next owner could say, I've got a bunch of kids, that's functions as a bedroom, I'm going to treat it as a bedroom, my septic system will experience it as a bedroom. This seems like a different set of conditions because it's in such a specific structure, unless your kids want to hang out across from the horse's stall, which the really good kids might.
They might want to be.
But again, it seems like a different set versus an office or a den or other structure on the second floor that you're like, you can turn this into whatever, and it's really thinking about this house into perpetuity as opposed to its current use, and this is materially different.
But
It's a barn.
it's protected from the future use scenario by having the deed restriction.
It should be recognized, definitely.
Right.
And
Disclosed.
Be still within the deed recording.
Yeah.
I agree what defines a room was asked on that, and I do agree that there is that chance that if it's finished, heated, electricity and lighting, it's finished, it's a finished room. The state actually had that problem, they switched over to just counting rooms versus saying this is gonna be used for a bedroom or
Designations,
a dining
yeah.
room, or, so. But we have our own regulations say anything above the first floor is considered a bedroom, outside of things like this, where it's obviously a studio
Right.
in one's apartment.
And I will note, on Farm Road in Dover, somebody's house where they've taken the barn and made it living space. Stunning. And they got the horse smell out, that never used to be in that barn, but the wood, and they have the stalls, one has a set of drums in
There are
it.
some,
and
there
It's
are some
incredible.
barns in the area that are nicer than probably any house in town.
But with the deed recording, I think is where we address that in terms of defining what the house is. So then it comes down to, right, how
The
many,
room count.
if we had 2 to play with, and if we can discuss what we call that a room of the dwelling of a house, is how we view this as an apartment. And I just really, again, Ellen, can you think of any apartments where rather than calling it a great room, 2 rooms, it was just viewed as a studio and 1 room? Do you know?
Usually don't go that,
Yeah,
I don't remember
I don't
going that far.
ever.
It was always, was it 2 or 3?
Yeah,
Was where we, because the kitchen has a different function from a living area.
yeah.
But studios themselves are so tight that this may just be the table to eat at and the TV over here. We call that a kitchen.
That's about what it's gonna be.
How big is the square footage
Less than 800 square feet.
for the entire
So it's under
apartment?
an indoor apartment, and we should stand on it. Because it's coming in as a secondary accessory for our zoning codes, so they have to stay the regular. So it's kind of meaning that it's not a, I don't see an issue with the deed recording as long as it's well defined. So with the 2 rooms, I don't see an issue. It's precedent to some degree, but just based on the way it's designed, it's all open.
So
If they had a wall here, I'd say it'd be 3 rooms.
that's what I was thinking, if we had said, that the apartment in the barn remains at 2 rooms, would, until the septic is addressed.
And we have
Prevent any kind of subdividing or enclosing of the deck.
We do have a boilerplate for deed recording, so that can be utilized. And maybe below, they can define the tack when it's finished, but not included in the room count, or included, but allowed. But it is still a 4-bedroom, so when someone buys it, they'll know it's still a 4-bedroom, not, because the Title V inspector will go and stack county roads.
They're not.
He called it 5-bedroom.
11 units.
And
So all becomes a
that's
bedroom.
the other meeting that we said.
There's actually a specific state law against using a stall as a den.
They have to make that law.
I feel like
I'll allow this to house a human in a stall.
is this like a delightful old law, like this is your
Yeah, yeah,
1888,
yeah.
and they're like, no, you can't put it in there.
Not too far from you, I remember a horse being housed in a house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, that's-
Well, that could happen.
I've seen
That's
that.
okay, horses do that.
Well,
And from a septic
actually,
standpoint, it's great.
I have a little Shetland who's a registered therapy team, and he does walk, he can live in the house, but he's not living in the house. But they do, I mean, guide minis, guide ponies live in houses.
So in the deed recording, could we also just specify the usage of the tap, or, clarify that, the usage, because I've specified usage of things before.
That way it doesn't become another apartment.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
No bathroom there. It's a great solution. And then we do have other things to do with this whole application, but that would be one, and then we need a septic plan to show where the sewage is going.
That's a later phase.
Well, we can't approve this without that. That was the board's decision on the septic tank should be under the septic alteration plan submitted at the time of the building application.
Right now, we're looking for a foundation permit, not a building.
Okay, so that's another request you would have. The board, it gets a little dicey then. The board, we've had issues with foundations. It's up to the board. Typically, Ellen, you remember, we've had foundations requests, and that's, thank you for reminding me of that. And that was another reason to bring them here is, once the foundation, it's just, timely if you start the septic now, not after you get the foundation, because then it could be, a cause for time delay. Because the opportunity is now where you're drawing quality plans to show everything will fit. And I would suggest the septic plan be, as noted in this meeting, at any apartments, prior to even the foundation being signed. But you can't have all this submitted as a foundation plan. So you'd have to resubmit foundation only, and at your own risk.
Submit to Henry, he was the one.
But on your building application, it would have to just say, does it say strictly foundation?
Yeah, we submitted a building
Not submit anything
application.
but a foundation permit.
Okay, so this came in like this.
Foundation.
Yeah, so you came in with the whole, everything, 7 stalls tackling, so we wouldn't be able to sign this.
Henry and I sat there and told me that's what I should put on it.
Oh, no, this-
I knew we were asking.
You know what, this acts as a preliminary building application.
Okay.
People do that, and they usually, there's a fee, but that, they came in with this, so this will have to sit and not be signed by us, because this is a full application. And other people, what they've done is if you so wish to just do strictly foundation, this will sit at bay with all this, and another plan with just foundation and control form just saying foundation only, because this is on running. So this came in not as a foundation for, sorry.
I just want to see, because that's Henry's writing.
Oh, Henry
He
gave a
filled
full
that-
policy, right?
He filled that in.
So that's,
So I-
these are easy to fill out.
No, but I'm just saying, we just,
That's
that's
okay.
what it says.
The control form Henry does complete, but the building application,
Let's make sure we get this
Yep.
carefully clear. There are 3 pieces to this project. There's the foundation, which we had submitted an individual foundation permit. And then there's the riding arena, which is the prefab building, which we thought we were bringing we actually brought the permit for that, the application for that here. And then there's the barn, which we were not trying to submit an application application for at this time. We're not far enough along to submit an application for that because we don't have the structural design. We only have the schematic design. So at this time, we were trying to submit the foundation permit and application, and in addition to that, the application for the riding arena. And not
Which is
the
no,
application for the barn.
Yeah,
The riding arena
no,
has
nothing.
no facilities in it at all. All of the facilities are in the barn.
Okay.
Then
That's what
if
we're
I
trying.
may- Sure, no, so at the last meeting when we were all together on February 15th, we were just saying building application, and so it came in as a building application for this presentation. The board would have to reconsider their decision of February 15th. You required two things prior to building application being approved. One was the septic design for all the septic waste that will be generated from this, and two was that the septic system had failed for the pool house. It was just going out on the ground, and the board made that as a condition, not to put these on this prior, and I was just, please, yeah,
It's not
exactly.
you, it's the system.
No, it wasn't them. They bought the house, that's why a Title V inspection was done. The previous owner allowed sewage just to go on the ground. So, thank you, I was gonna add that to it. I don't want you to look like you're the ones that did it. But that had to be corrected as well. So prior
Is
to
it
any...
possible if you spoke with the building inspector to get their paperwork in order for the riding ring and the foundation, and if it was limited to that, would you then be able to sign
your
off on
permission.
those?
With your permission, that's not considered the building application that was addressed? Because the board needs to approve that for me to go forward.
No, I would
That's all.
like to stick to, we spend a lot of time on that.
So that would be not considered the building application that you were mentioning on February 15th. The foundation permit and the riding rink would be separate from the decision noted on February 15th for this property. If you so wish.
If that would work, then would that be okay?
That's
yes,
all we wanted.
that's all.
Okay. Well, now you have a little doubt what's coming next, so, okay.
And I'll reflect in the minutes, and then when you're ready to come in, tell Henry you just want the riding rink with no plumbing, except you might want a hose in there, that's allowed. And the foundation with no connections or plumbing. That's not going to harm you. It's at your own risk, and that should be noted for the minutes, and that becomes the record. And then when we see you again, we have boom, 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 we know what we need to do. The deed recording is the one that's going to be the major undertaking to make sure it addresses what was presented.
So, do we need a vote, or would this fall under standard procedure for you to look at those two?
I would ask that a clarifying vote be taken to make sure.
Okay, so the motion to authorize Mark to review and approve, if appropriate, the foundation application and/or arena, riding ring, what are you calling it again? Arena application
Without plumbing,
without plumbing
or connections with plumbing.
or connections to the septic.
So moved.
Second?
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So we're supposed to have you folks witness us signing this form as part of that application.
Just make sure it doesn't say building application.
Build into a
Well, it's just the riding arena.
That's just the riding.
Right.
That's one.
That's all we want.
And then you should
Like
put
the rest of the riding arena forms.
and foundation.
There were separate forms for the foundation.
Oh, okay.
The form,
We'll get that.
well, those were the
We'll get that straight down to
forms.
Henry.
Yeah, I think.
So
I'm totally witnessing it.
Yeah, I was just.
Why do we need a witness?
What do you need to do?
Why don't we just get the paper straight and trust that you'll sign it properly?
No, it's not all, it's really-
Sometimes it's a witness. So, but again, the control form's gonna have to come in so I can sign that. This is only for witnessing what we're signing. And this will come in with your building application.
this is the full application for the arena.
Yep, you'll submit that to Henry.
Right.
And he'll give me a whole new control form, separate. We'll keep this one doesn't go to waste, this is for the final. And we'll start all over again with a foundation, riding arena, building control form. It'll look just like this one here. It'll look just like this, like your form, and it'll just say riding arena, and foundation. And then they'll have just riding arena and foundation information, but we'll hold, this isn't yours, but we'll hold on to yours
On the other.
until you're ready to have the deed recording, the septic work completed, and as well as the septic tank plan approved.
And you'll be coordinating with Henry, or we?
You need to get to Henry and tell him, hey, we need to separate these.
And if he has any questions, he can.
Yeah, and
If he asks you stuff and you're not sure.
I'll see him tomorrow afternoon. I should see Henry. I see Henry usually every Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday afternoon. So we'll be able to.
You want this?
You don't want me taking that with all this? If you don't mind.
I don't
Or
mind.
do you want to
I'll run it up
keep this in
there.
the
Yeah, I was going to ask,
file,
can I have that new plan as part of
Yeah,
the?
you can have it.
Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, no, if I. You know, we can get it done tomorrow afternoon, I'll give you that.
Thank you.
You're welcome, all right?
It sounds like interesting work or fun if.
Yes, that was really interesting. I want to see it when it's done.
Daunting was the word that came to mind.
Ambitious.
There's that too.
Transparency, I did give them enough time for Valentine's Day to spend on the phone. I felt guilty going over your house that night, but it was one day prior to the meeting and they were not right. I don't usually go to people's homes on Valentine's Day.
Well, that's okay.
It's a Hallmark holiday.
Valentine's.
You're in trouble.
Thank you.
So is this 46 Western?
Yes. They are looking, they submitted a building application. Talking about building application, so I have the control form. Can I just clean up my desk for that last one?
Yep.
Have the
And
plan.
I'll just,
This is for the daycare.
Hope I didn't lose their building application. Oh, here it is. No, that's not it. It was on the table. It was a building application control form. I think they may have taken it.
It's not here.
No big
We'll
deal.
catch him. We'll catch him.
Excuse me, just for a minute.
okay. So,
What's the date on that?
May 18, 2016,
2016.
so, the Blueberry Farm?
Yes.
That.
Oh, okay.
And I guess
Wait,
you-
I did there many times.
It'll show up.
So, if I can summarize, you moved in and started the daycare, is that correct? So, when they came in before, we had reviewed it based on the size of the daycare, classification, and the size of the septic system.
Hold on a second, I'll be right there.
We came up with.
What a nice site.
Stellar.
Oh, did you find it?
That person out of line. came in and just-
Uh-huh.
I know, but I have 46 West.
Okay.
They were giving me update, which was good, I would let you continue.
No, that's as far as I got.
So,
I'll let you take
what happened was, is they came in another time this past winter, and I spoke with them about, they wanted to consider a bathroom on their property for the daycare. And I told them, that would change the whole intent of the house and home daycare versus the house being used strictly for daycare versus home and
A
daycare.
center versus.
Center, thank you, that's the word. So Henry actually
Was
asked,
the additional bathroom going to be in the house, or?
they were planning in the barn, I believe. Previously, it was in the barn, correct? You were going to try to have it when you came in prior to talk with me. And now they're planning to go to the woodworking room, which is off the barn, but Henry did ask them in writing questions about will the area be used as part of your school, and they did respond to that. That was back on April 26th. And the owners who were here on May 6, 2017 wrote, Dear Town Office, I am the owner of residential property located at 46 Western Ave, Sherborn, Mass. I want to apply for a building permit to put a half bath in the woodwork pottery room as shown on the drawings. This half bath will be used by family only and will not be required to comply with ADA requirements. I think Henry's issue is more the ADA. Ours is more just making sure it is household only based on septic capacity, so that's why we got involved in it. So in the minutes that, you have the minutes of May 18th?
Yes.
It would reflect our review and where we were with this as well, Mary and Clancy, the real estate agent. So with that said, I only wanted to review with the board to make sure you are okay with them doing that, because it's the fine line of how is it controlled by that. And obviously, you know, the owners are here to explain, you know, how they'll control it from not being used for business, I guess is what I would ask. And I will leave the plan open against the barn. And you can come up if you like.
Probably be helpful, actually.
Here's the woodwork on the existing floor plan of the, so is this existing accessory building? This is how it exists now, correct?
So is this, just to orient
Well, that one's based
myself, so if you're on Western Ave looking at the property, is this the room where there used to be the scale and things for the blueberries? Okay, I know that.
Thank you, I do remember now.
But I thought there's a barn and then that was in the secondary building behind the barn.
Yeah, there's a smaller barn.
Okay. And is this in the big barn or the secondary
The
barn?
big one.
Okay.
The big one on the second floor. Yeah.
This is the lower level, and you're on a slope, so. And then what they're proposing on the first floor would be this little work in Hollywood room, and two storages to add a half bath and to the woodworking hobby room. The questions I think that would be fair to ask is what we asked before, is it heated, is it finished? The woodworking hobby room, or is it going to remain, well, is it? I guess the question first, is it finished, that room?
It's not finished, and then there's some heating.
What are you gonna have to install?
Is that not
in the
used?
bathroom?
No.
Oh,
So
just like a space heater?
Yeah, totally used for something.
So there's some controls right there.
So the furnace doesn't really exist?
I'm sorry.
Furnace exists.
Okay, what is that heating?
Wood.
But what space is the furnace warming? So it's not
What rooms, what
hobby
rooms
room is there?
You said there wasn't heat.
See the
It's
furnace?
here, yeah. It's not here, it's not here.
So what is it?
Protect the pipes from freezing.
Where,
If I like to work in winter in the hobby room.
then you use the furnace.
This would be warm.
So, but we don't have the water off in the winter, so the pipes can't freeze? Oh, so you're gonna turn the water off in the winter?
So winterize it like a cottage.
That makes sense.
It's like the, or if you want to go in the winter, if plumbing's not there, you can put on the wood stove and hang out the woodwork, it sounds like.
So is the family daycare in the home?
Yeah, it's in the home.
It's in the
not
home.
in the-
And so this is completely distinct?
Part is not finished.
It's all finished?
Unfinished.
The barn is not finished.
Unfinished?
Unfinished,
Yes.
okay. I thought I heard all finished.
No.
Change, obviously, but that, if the barn's unfinished, that's, I don't,
So this
I just
sounds
want to
like-
present it to the board. This is an easy one, I can be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Like,
Yeah, it's kind of like setting the record to that it'll stay unfinished, and with that, I don't, but there will be a need for a septic plan before I can approve this, or the pipe going to the septic tank, whatever, that's gonna be designed by an engineer. So before I can approve this, if the board's okay with that, I will need for you to show the piping to the septic tank, or you could do a septic tank right here and pipe it into the leaching field, but it's gotta be one of the two.
Okay, can we just connect this to our existing pipeline in the room?
That would be, then that involves the Board of Health for the outside pipe as well as the plumbing inspector. So, and obviously, would you need to pump it all, or would it be on gravity?
I agree.
So that's a good situation.
So it's on a hill?
It's higher, it's higher.
Yeah, you would just still submit a plan to the plumbing inspector for the Board of Health, and we have joint jurisdiction. They inspect parts, I inspect parts. And it has to be installed by a licensed installer. Oversight from a plumber the first 10 feet outside of each building, barn as well as house. I can help you through that. Okay. But I can't sign this till I know that's been done.
Okay.
So I guess I also see this as akin to the last one in the sense that having a bathroom in the barn is not an unusual situation. So,
But this is unfinished.
Yeah, and that's-
So, I mean, I think it's even more
You
straightforward.
originally had intentions to make daycare on site in the barn. That's why we asked you to come here, because
Actually, we
obviously
have that many students in here. We don't have that many students here.
Okay, that's fine. So that's gone by the wayside. But that was an original discussion we had. And that's why we came
It's
to
an
the board
option.
to make sure. Yeah, maybe someday you can, but the design of the septic system is supporting. the
It's a
whole
residential
area
septic
in-
system.
Exactly.
So if you do want to do that at some point, you just know you need to come back and
Yeah, sure.
discuss whatever the requirements might be for that.
Yeah, of course.
So, okay, so I assume a motion to allow you to review, or does this now fall under your normal review?
It would be a normal review, as the board doesn't have any issues with it. It was more just oversight due to previous discussions.
Okay.
So, give me a call tomorrow afternoon if you'd like, and maybe call an engineer and plumber to work out those other issues. Not issues, but the setups.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that it involved drawing showing how that bathroom is going to connect to the septic essentially.
Exactly,
right?
yeah, you'll need an engineered plan slash plumbing plan. So usually an engineer will put it together, show the barn, show the house, show the pipe coming over, the connection, and the gravity and all the elevations.
And does it need to show the water supply and how it connects?
Yeah, thank you. Forgot about the water supply, because you're gonna have to get water over there too, and those two pipes can't cross over each other without appropriate protection. Okay, so the best thing is to keep them 10 feet apart. And again, we can help your engineer. Do you have an engineer in mind or a plumber?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you go work on that for us and have them call us and I'll help all of you for it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good luck. Well, the equipment looks like fun. Okay. I just want to stop and get out and...
Hey, ever gonna bring back the blueberry picking that they used to do down there? Haven't we mentioned
I
that?
think we have saved half of the blueberry this year. We need more connected.
So you intend to preserve all of them eventually?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
There's too hard to connect weeds and the trees. Inside we restricted higher and taller.
Right.
It's really hard. I have already used like 100 of them, but we have to.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And last year with the drought wasn't an easy year anyway for anything.
Yeah, so I figured out that as long as I wore like hunter boots to pick, I was great, but there was a lot of poison ivy at the base of the plants.
I got that part.
Yeah.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's a real.
But they were really good blueberries.
Yeah. That's why it tastes much stronger than the wine.
Yeah, absolutely.
From my opinion.
Absolutely. Have a great night,
And they
guys.
managed that property organically all those years, so it's kind of nice.
Have a good night.
All right.
Thank you.
Every night.
You did. Well, Mark, I guess we'll keep going with your items.
Sure. Thanks for bearing with me as I go through everything. I don't find that building application, I just, I'm moving things around. So the next one would be, oh, here it is right here. It was underneath my notes for 16 Mason Hill Lane. Oh, well. I'm back in order now, I apologize. Let's see, I'll just put that there too. Okay, so 56 South Main Street is actually one single lot that is now being divided into two lots. Lots 1 and 2, that's why you see 56 South Main, Lot 1, and then next to that, the next item is Lot 2.
It's 56 South Main.
It's a dilapidated house, it's a little bit off the road, and it's...
Is it on, if you're heading towards Medfield, is it on the right or left?
If you had said it that first, I thought.
And it's a small white house.
It's just dilapidated, I think it might have been white at one time.
It's abandoned.
It's abandoned. And it's,
I see it on the list.
Okay.
so this South Main going towards Medfield.
Oh, it's that one kind of up the hill.
Yes.
So as you're going to the right, kind of before you get to Lamplighter, there's that little white one that's kind of up
Oh,
on the hill
yeah,
that had
yeah.
like the homemade sign for a while, like buildable lot or something like
Yeah.
that.
It's kind of carved this way. And here's the locals plan with Bearcat and Lamplighter down here. They just built 77 down here. And kind of did the same thing down at 70 and 56 South Main, not 56, 70 and 68 South Main, where they combined, took one lot and combined it into two. So what we did is we soil tested on both this lot, well, it was both areas of those animals. And I'll show you lot 2 second, but the engineer and I were out there a couple times for the second lot. This lot had no problems, the second lot they had to find a place away from the groundwater. So this one meets our requirements for the construction. It is a lot more than 56 out there. It is going to be a tear down and a new house put in, and new well, and all the distances in that. There were a couple things, that's why this one, I have the old plans marked up, that had to be addressed, and we addressed them. One was, I think the old thing, if you want, was most of it. One was the stone over the trench has to be 4 inches, which he had here. This, we require support stone over the actual trench that goes through, and he's using your typical trenches. So he had forgotten that, so we added that to there, and I had him define the soil testing a little bit better. And so that has been done. This is the revision, and it's ready for approval. Oh, and show the ground. So I had that as well. This is.
So this is.
The more we require, the more the plans become 2 pages. I do not like 2-page plans, but that's all we can require. And I'm sorry.
Oh, so this one meets all of our
Yes, it does.
regulations.
They will.
That's good. All right. So do we have a motion to approve the plans as
Recommend approval to the
presented?
board.
Any conditions?
Well, just both for the line and septic system. No condition.
Deed recording?
Both files, this one is on, yeah, they both are. So, deed recording for the garbage trailer for both.
Okay.
They like to design without garbage trailers now because they don't have to use 50% more size. This would have been up to here. So we're seeing more and more requests to go without the garbage trailer with the deed recording.
Hopefully people remember not to use them, because otherwise they clog up the septic systems. Shall we vote these together or
No,
separate? That's what's separate. Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the well for Lot 1, South Main Street?
Motion to approve well and septic on that
Well,
one.
no, there's a separate, because we need a condition on the septic.
Oh, no, well and septic go together. It's one application. I thought you meant lot 2.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, was that right? All right.
You're right.
Well and septic.
We're all rehearsing.
Can I second it?
That's my time.
Her motion now that we have.
I'm just here to say hi.
All right, then the well and septic for Lot 1, South Main Street, conditional to receipt of a deed recording for the garbage.
I second.
And any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Were you going to ask anything?
No, with the condition of the, yeah.
So now to lot 2, which is up here. It's the next door lot. This one has a little bit more of review on the groundwater profile, as well as showing the groundwater that as it relates to the foundation, because these are brand new homes and they have to be 2 feet from the concrete floor, which they are. And
That's from the basement.
from the basement floor. And you'll see several tests here because we've seen this in another property on Green Lane just recently. Underneath the property, sometimes you get pools of water that's higher than what we find nearby. So the engineer, and sometimes the ledge too can cause issues and so forth. So we went out here a couple times and he stayed away from the wet areas in this area and went up to this point here. Found a location, did a whole review of the groundwater. It does meet and comply with our regulations. And this plan as well, this is ready for approval. And the location is shown for the septic and the well.
So now, in that location, the distance to
groundwater
groundwater.
is greater than 5 feet lower than the top.
Great.
These two weren't.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the plan? Does this one require deed recording
Yeah, it
as
was a
well?
deed
Okay,
recording.
to approve the plan for Lot 2, South Main Street, subject to receipt of a deed recording for the garbage water.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And don't run out, I have to get these stamped before the meeting ends. I'll remember.
Will you get to sign?
It's really cool having the door open.
That'd be soon.
I'll run out for the stamps once I
Maybe
finish
we're going to
whatever.
defer a few things maybe. There was one.
Would it be possible for us to quickly go through the reorganization?
Go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because then we can get that resolved without,
Right, except Mark would be able to go if we finish
oh,
up
perfect.
his.
Oh, yeah, yeah, sorry, I missed
I'll
that.
go and get the stamps and those, usually.
Yeah, but are we done with all of your issues here?
I'm sure pretty flexible, I like bathing beach and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got under the not anticipated, the 2 items.
Yeah, 2
Yeah,
items
okay,
came
so-
in, thank you.
So
Today.
let's take care of his.
Can I close that door?
Cheerfully flexible.
Can I close that door?
And then he can start researching 5900.
Yeah, oh yeah, and I have him,
So Rebecca would like a break so we can either recess but then we can't talk, or if you want to slip out and,
you can talk about blue
I
books.
would wait till he gets the stamps.
Well, there's more business.
yeah, no, we have a lot more business and I'm just thinking to keep moving.
Whatever you like,
Second,
the best
keep
time.
moving.
I just think a break, but we don't have to do it until he's done.
I'm saying you can exit without stopping the meeting,
Yeah,
correct?
there's still a quorum present, so you can go and do what you have to do.
Oh, I see. Human break.
If you don't mind.
I mean,
I didn't want to miss the meeting yet, but.
Okay, well, we'll fill you in on whatever we get done while you're out.
So
So,
Farm
oh.
Pond, was that approved and all?
Not yet.
Okay.
Right,
That was-
comments on that?
The initial tests were done at Farm Pond, they passed, they test for E. coli, you can test for either E. coli or enterococci for the beach testing, the actual water testing at the lake. They still will need to test for the drinking water, but the results for the E. coli was less than 1, and that's fantastic. The results this time of year, the water's not warm and no geese, so keep our fingers crossed it'll stay that way. It's in good condition right now.
Okay, so you're recommending approval. So do we have a motion to approve the 2017 permit for bathing beach for Farm Pond?
If I may, Madam Chair, just before it gets moved, with condition that it be inspected. I'll hand them the permit at the time of the inspection. And they know the routine, I've inspected it for many years.
What about the drinking water?
Well, they're going, oh yeah, and
The bubbler be
yeah, in
covered?
the past, the board has always told them to put a bag over it so they know it's not drinkable. They're
Okay,
present,
so-
not tested for potability. We're hoping it'll be potable, but not tested.
You're talking about the one at the
That-
bathroom?
Yeah.
So conditional to an inspection or inspections, I don't know how many.
We're hoping 1.
Okay.
They got it
conditional
down
to
pat now.
An inspection and to, what would you call it? Decommissioning the water supply until it's been tested.
I would just say
for
making it not
potability?
available.
They
Cover.
cover the bubbler.
Okay,
And that's,
so,
they cover it and they usually don't put it on, but sometimes to get the water to the other area that they might need, they have to keep the water, well, toilets too, so they have to keep the water on.
Definitely want to keep those
Yes.
operational, so.
Yes. So,
okay,
And the hose to clean your feet.
yep.
okay, so did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay. And any other questions,
So do you
comments?
do the inspection after they put the docks in, or
Sometimes they're not in, so that requires, I don't,
second?
usually I do 3 or 4 inspections through the year, and sometimes the docks are over to the side, and I do tell the lifeguards and the operator, keep people away, because you get some sharp edges with those, so, and I say, don't let anyone play on them either, because someone could get hurt. They're not in best condition at the base because they're in water. So yes, we do make sure that's kept separate, and we go back out to look, and typically I won't go on them to see if they're safe, but if I get a complaint, then I'll have a lifeguard go out and check, because I typically am not dressed to do that, so. Although, if it's from the beach over, I sometimes will go out and look for clarity even at past the 4 feet that I'm required to look for.
So how often do they sample the?
Once a week. And we've had years where when the geese show up, that's typically when we have our issues. So when the water gets very warm or after a rainstorm, especially if it's been dry for a couple weeks and
Right.
all the bacteria just washes in.
Flows.
So, But they usually go back, test it, and it's usually fine. But there's a geometric mean process that we follow in case it happens too many times within a time period, and then they have to shut down for the year. But we haven't gotten there yet, thankfully, so.
Not in the 16 years I've been here, so.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
I,
I don't know what we're voting on.
Oh, for,
you were gonna bring me up to date.
oh, sorry, I thought you were here when we made the motion.
Nope.
Okay, let's see. Ellen?
So
Is it two
we're voting to
items,
renew the
237
permit?
Washington?
I just don't even know what you guys are voting on. And you were
Yeah,
gonna
it was
tell me
farm
what
down
what I
permit.
missed.
Soil testing.
Oh, that's.
They get it every year, same procedure. They have to have an inspection later, they go through the water tests. They do drinking water tests later, and then they can go back up. Inspects conditions.
For the
Around the
residents who
pond.
live around the pond.
No, for the basin management.
For the water fountains? Drinking water testing water, where is it taken from the water fountains? Or the bathroom?
From the water supply there.
But they don't, they cover the
Yeah.
bubblers and all.
This is until it's tested.
Yeah, I remember this kind of report before, maybe I missed that meeting last year. Anyway, okay.
Okay, so we have 237 Washington and Lot 1 Green
Yes.
Lane.
Do you have the request from Lot 1 Green Lane? Well, I don't know if you have it.
I don't
I
think
have
I
it.
saw that.
No, there's nothing.
I can, you don't have it. I can read the letter if the board wishes. It came in yesterday, May 16th. It was from Ben Stevens, who's the person, he has interest in the lots. I don't know if he's the owner. He just asked that, per your recommendation, which we sat down on Monday to go over the groundwater readings there, and Lot 1 is showing issues with, just like the last lot we looked at, issues with groundwater in a low area. So he's hoping to go back out and do some soil testing, perk test, which he can do up to June 30th, so he won't need the board's approval for that. It's not out of the season. But what he's also looking to do is to confirm soil morphology. So with the soil morphology, which is, he'll be looking for reduction, oxidation, coloring in the soil, we call them models. He will be really confirming groundwater. Not really, he will be confirming groundwater. With that said, it's a gray area because it's been determined by GLM up on a further point of that lot, which we checked their pipes, but it was unwitnessed testing. GLM was just doing some exploratory testing a few years back, but the results, the further up the hill you went, were better on Lot 1. So he would like to test a little further up there in that area. And I told him it would be advisable for him to get the data from GLM at least, but it would be an area that has not been witnessed for groundwater. So over the past year, I know this has been a project that's been moving along in some consideration for testing out of season last summer and and then they went back to confirm in November. So I would suggest the same concept, that they be allowed to go do that and then put in monitor pipes for confirmation in November. I don't think you'll have all the lots built because lots 2, 3, and 4 did pass and should be coming in soon. And what I would expect between now and November, you could go back out for confirmatory to have Lot 1 finally approved. So, but I would suggest his
Part of
request
the
be...
issue is that if you're looking for evidence of oxidation reduction, that even though the summer is a downtime or this period is drier, that if that's present, you'll be able to see it. What it's not good for is observing groundwater, but if they leave the pipes behind and then...
And to be honest with you, the drought's been pretty much eliminated, and it's been pretty wet.
Yeah,
So
it has.
we probably will see some groundwater too as we go up there, but not as high as we saw it at the base of that lot. If you
So
want,
would it be standard procedure for him to leave the pipes in, or do we need to request that he leave them in?
we need to request it because if they find models, they're not required to put in groundwater monitor pipes. That's a good point that you just made. So I would suggest the board make that as a condition to allow them to test. But this is the area where high groundwater was, and right next door, just like the one on South Main Street. We got outcrop of rock everywhere out here, ledge over here very high, groundwater very high. It changes, it's not based on if you're higher up on the property, but here, with GLM had some water pipes on the wetlands, the water table wasn't an issue. It was pretty much what we found down here, but as this swales down, I think that's the problem. They tested for the house and they tested for the area of leaching field. The groundwater was up in anywhere from 36 to 48, 3 to 4 feet. It was very high, and I think it's just pooling in this area as we look at the contours. But over here, it wasn't bad, and here it wasn't. So he's hoping to go here and possibly change the lot line. I talked to Gino Calucci, our planning agent, he said that should not be an issue. They're A&R lots, so there's not really a major need to get action not required. Because they have already been defined on the actual street, they're not subdivision, it's just being designed. If they were, then they'd have to go through the planning board for more permission. They can just make the change and send it to the planning board for confirmation.
Is this the lot that was at one time being proposed as a 40B?
Yes.
And now he's retracted that and is simply subdividing it to make individual houses?
At this point, that's his proposal.
And
Each with a single family?
Each of there's one, the original proposal for lots 1 and 2 are both shown on this plan. So there's Green Lane, there's lot 2, which you'll be seeing again, he's putting the system in the back, because you can find good. This area is very limited to finding an area that's suitable for a septic system for our requirements.
This is Maple down here.
Actually, Maple is 2 more lots down.
Okay.
And so lot 4, when we're on lot 4, which is 2 lots down basically, you can see in the very backyard where Claudia Maple Street is, where they're changing that house and putting, well, they knocked the house down and they're changing it. So they're right to that point there.
Thanks so much for ranking.
so both Ethan and Mark have been working on this because Mark has history with the site going way back, and then Ethan did some work for a while, and Mark has come back in too to help out, and so they've coordinated and compared notes and worked with the applicant a lot. A lot of testing has gone on out there to find spots, so.
It's certainly preferable in those people's minds to have four
It's a
single
lot
family.
less loading overall, but we'll see what happens.
Well, years ago, Greenwood, there were about 5, maybe 4 houses built in Greenwood before the 40B issue. And they had high groundwater in the front, almost like this. And the board told them back then, it was around 1988, just back up and keep checking. If you keep checking, you're going to find sooner or later an area that won't have this high groundwater. And it could be right close to an area that does. And people question and say, how? But it's the ledge below sometimes and how it's causing the drainage to occur. So it's sometimes the geology as well, which is, it can take you out when you look at the topography.
Right.
But in this case, I think it's both the topography coming and swelling in this area, as well as the geology. This is bedrock. There's
There's outcrops,
in this
yeah.
area.
And yeah, the topography and bedrock do not align often, so.
Okay.
Good. So is that okay to go forward with it?
Yep.
And then, with the condition from on
With the condition, yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, I guess, because I forgot about the condition. Otherwise, it would be standard. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve soil testing for Lot 1 Green Lane, subject to the condition that monitoring pipes are installed at the time of soil evaluation so that they can be later.
And by the end of June, should we put, because that's what the perks are too, and by June 30th.
And by June 30th.
So the testing, the repeat testing, and the
Well, they're
pipes would
choosing another
remain?
area. They're choosing an area that has already shown groundwater to be lower than what they found in the lower area, so.
My question is, the pipes which will be remaining in place, will they still be needed beyond that date?
Yeah, because we're out of season.
And how long are they good, like usable?
They're supposed to put silk sock on them, they have to put silk sock on them for our regulations. They can last 5 to 10 years.
Oh, that's
When
good.
do you want to be able to retest them or test them?
I'm sure they'll be interested in getting out there November 1st, you know, but what I can do for the board is we can bring all that data back to see if it's confirmatory to some degree to what we found on Lot 2, which is just next door to it. I'll bring
How
back,
about that the monitoring pipes will remain in place until a date agreed upon with the agent?
sure. I don't think they'll mind. They usually like to take them out when they build the houses, so. But at least they'll be there to read in case there's
But-
issues.
And that date should be on or before when the houses are completed.
Sense. And then we had,
Hold on.
oh, sorry.
Okay, would like to move that, and then
Yeah, I move that this be approved, that
could
the
just move it.
testing be approved in this manner that was just described. Conditional
Second.
upon the presence of the pipes and the completion before June 30th.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This next one, Darrell came in today, and unfortunately, Lisa, it's your neighbor, so it's up to you if you want to declare a conflict. They just submitted today, and I was going to present, but I'll give you, it's 237 Washington, which is, I presume it's your butter, because...
Well, across the street, yes.
Yeah, that counts.
Absolutely. All right, so you've declared a conflict.
So does that mean I have to recuse
What-
myself? or-
Yeah, you have to sit out there.
You can go out there.
Okay.
I've been told it's best to leave the room, but it's your choice, because people could say you're making faces. It's your choice, I don't want to tell you how to handle it, it's your choice. So they want to go to a hotel here, no?
Invasive methadone clinic and marijuana
You
dispensary.
know what?
Should be a practical joke, right?
Yeah, nothing can faze me at this point.
So they just got this in, they were anxious, and Ellen and I told them Monday, but here we are in the room Wednesday, so I reviewed it before it came into the room. We've seen a plan like this, so it wasn't too bad to look at. They were going back and forth. The original memo was fine. Then they went back to saying, we're going to keep the original memo. And now they're saying, no, we don't want to keep it. So I guess it failed. I guess it didn't work on it. You said it didn't produce water. So it's a whole me out there. People that were out there are gone, the install was gone, so they don't need to regroup and come back and talk with us about who's going to install the septic. They got the sewer gravel in, but that's all they have, and the house is half built. I think just pretty much rough, there's no electrical or anything there. I was out there last Thursday, and it's still a slow process, but what they wish to do now is put the proposed well here, drill a new well for a new house, abandon the old well, and that's the revision date. They do meet the radius of 150 feet. They're required to meet the soil. If it was perking less than 2 minutes per inch, but it doesn't perk that well, then it would be 175. But, to be a butter, which, on all sides, this meets the requirement. Go ahead.
Okay,
But you had,
yeah,
but no, you left me
yeah, there's a
a
big...
variant. Oh, yeah, they did put the
They failed
variances.
to put the variances on this one.
Again,
Yeah.
isn't this what we had last summer?
Yeah,
So,
so,
go ahead.
So just so you know, last summer, there were, with this plan, it was similar to this. Plan was submitted, this is a property that has a lot of attention. What they submitted was all fine, and then when they brought in the kind of the final version to submit to the board and then be able to move ahead, they decided to get rid of the well and put in the new well, right? So, but they didn't have approval for that.
Right.
So
I could just put it on though, it's easy.
then it went
They rushed it.
It went back and forth on how come this isn't approved, but they didn't give us something approvable. We tried to explain if you just took that off and went back to what was approved, you could always apply later, as they're doing now, for a proposed well. And then they also forgot to put on the variances, which are supposed to be on the plan, recording what we voted on. So we're back at the same thing, but it turned into quite a quagmire, and
But the rules didn't get to.
we were used as the...
That's just standard, like,
Right,
state,
so they gotta do what they gotta
state
do.
law, like,
and the reason that Mark's bringing this tonight is because you won't be here at the next meeting.
I also am out of town June 7th, so we may need to look at the date.
I'm on Cape Cod, I've been up there for 8 months, and I'm afraid of my wife.
Oh, we have 4 variants here, and it's already scheduled.
Right.
But you'll have 3 members.
No, I'm
No,
not.
because you're going
Rebecca's
on
not
Harbor Cape
gonna be
also.
We have one too. Well, we just.
And ours also was planned a year ago.
But all the notices have been sent out to abutters.
Yeah.
What you could do then is, well, we can get this done so we don't.
Yeah, and then we'll involve her.
But so the reason, that's why it's here tonight, if you can approve it conditional to the revised plan. And then if you could just come in between meetings.
Or I can sign on behalf of
Sign.
the board, I don't mind doing that.
If,
Just-
it's never been done
Okay,
before
then
though.
best to have you.
Yeah.
We'll swing by the office. Okay, so,
Yeah.
all right, so anyway, and there were a lot of
Setting up
accusations that we were
precedents.
holding it up, but it was not at
You need to be
all.
compliant with the rules.
Oh,
So I would
really
ask-
way off of the rules, and we had a lot of solutions of how they could have solved that to move it along instantaneously, but it just
Here we are
wasn't getting
working on the
through.
day of, but I would ask
So,
the board
okay.
to approve it conditional to the variances being placed on the plan and the signing the well application. Because when I say they, I don't know who's doing it on this lot, who they are.
Is there a
Well,
rule to
who's the
document?
engineer?
It's Sawyer, still the same
He
engineer.
should know that.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah,
normal procedure.
he's done this plan now 3 or 4 times, so he should know this.
Okay,
Is there a rule to just capture the date issues and sort of, like again, like this still isn't done, this isn't on the board, is there a rule to capture the minutes that
oh yeah,
requested changes had not been made, these are now requested, this is conditional for the approval, but also just this even submission of the incomplete piece. If they gave it to us on Monday and said, oh, whoops, you forgot that, there would have been an opportunity to not have the contingency
Exactly.
because we would have had the time and they didn't provide us appropriate time.
And that's what we
notice.
asked for.
and that did happen, so after things, I think this was discussed either on Next or Sherborn or somewhere last year, and at various meetings, Ellen pulled together all the records that showed all the reminder emails that she kept sending, we still haven't received, if you get this, you could be on this meeting, if you do this, then you won't need a meeting, and we had all the documentation, and I just went to a Board of Selectmen's meeting, it was very dry, but on July 13th, July 15th, and then July 22nd,
So just
you
want to
know.
make sure the minutes reflect.
Yes.
And they become a public record.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the plan as presented, conditional to the plans being updated to show the variances and having a signed well application by the current owner or applicant?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll grab Lisa.
Okay, excellent.
So maybe we just needed a break. Everybody.
No doubt.
He's getting Lisa.
I know, but Lisa had to leave.
She had to leave because she had to recuse herself because
Oh,
she's
right,
a
because
butter.
that's why. I got it. I already forgot.
All right, so Mark, now you can do stamping
Yeah, I'll
and
go
we'll
get
do
the stamps,
signing and
yeah.
we'll move on back to reorganization of the board.
Okay, I'll be right back, and if you want, I've done some review on 59. I don't know if you've already discussed 59 with me.
Oh, yes, I did want to get an update from you, but
You
we'll
want me
come
to do
back.
that now?
Oh, not used to having anyone.
All right, let's see how quickly. All right, animal inspector, done deal, we kind of talked about that, and that might fall in our group thing. Right now, the food inspector.
I brought up that,
Okay.
so it's-
Yeah.
that was off topic.
Although I think like the bats thing is something to just clarify, because there should be a pathway, and this is
Yeah.
something that comes up, and there's actual like guidelines about if you have bad exposure, these are the proper pathways. If you have minor children who are nonverbal, these are the pathways, and it seems like not an urgent issue for the Board of Health, but things that if we could ultimately get on the website would be
Clarity,
helpful to
yeah.
town members. It is call this person if the bat's alive, call this person if the bat's dead, call
Right.
this person if the bat's gone.
Right, and call, when to call your physician if there's even a
And there's some
potential.
CDC guidance around this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that when there was a bat in town hall, didn't Mark or somebody helped out with that
Well,
information?
Joe
Such as
Shepherd
posting.
used to be the animal control officer, and then
That's-
they don't have him anymore.
Oh,
So now it's a police officer who does it, and apparently they do it
Oh.
combined with, I don't know.
Maybe we need to have maybe we need to examine that and find a little more.
We're not in charge of the animal control office.
Okay, so it's not our jurisdiction.
All right, so any
Okay.
chance one of you would like to think about whether you'd like to draft something very brief?
Yeah.
Point people to
Thank you.
resources?
Yes.
And
I can
That's
review it.
great.
That sounds
And
perfect.
to speak with the police department as part of that, to say, do they?
Just to kind of clarify, so I'll work to
Have
clarify with
somebody-
the police department, the
Yeah.
animal inspector, and then try to get validated federal guidelines or state guidelines around exposure, and, you know, if we
Protocols.
could put that on the, you know, the Board of Health
And
website.
I'm pretty sure that was collected during the town hall bat incident, some of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we still have that. We just remember a lot of information about.
Yeah, and I've got a bunch of folks at the hospital who I work closely with ID, and I can just reach out to
All right.
them and say, what are
Never
the
mind,
guidelines?
we'll get the.
and then-
Has it well in
Yeah,
hand.
right, like,
All right, excellent.
like I already
Check.
know, talk to JJ, done.
And there are a bunch of things that I think would be really good to have increased information
Right.
so that people have a greater awareness of what we do, because I think that a lot of people really don't know what we do.
Right.
Exactly, but this is
Except
an
for work.
area that so many people actually have had incidents like
Yeah.
me, and
Yeah.
people just don't know what to do and
Mhm.
who to call, and so
Yeah.
I think this is just an easy one that we could
Mhm.
start with. Yeah.
Okay,
And so I'm happy to take the lead on that.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so burial agent is Carol Marple. If there are no comments, I'll just keep going.
Sounds
Somebody
delightful.
jump in if we need to talk more. Groundwater Protection Committee representative, oh, me. That group has not been meeting. Do we still assign me to that? Or maybe for ease? Sure. Yeah.
Shouldn't you be
It solved it
meeting?
years ago.
No.
Yeah, we tried.
I don't know, it's been,
But it's still like 3 or 4 years.
every year.
All right, so let's just leave it
Should we call
at.
you emeritus?
Leave it in case they decide to have a meeting.
Okay.
Then you'll get.
Contingency appointment.
They have a meeting, we have somebody who will go
Okay,
and report back.
Kind of
okay.
like if they build it.
Yeah.
The local emergency planning committee representative, we have Ellen. And I must say, Ellen does a lot of training for emergency planning with the region 4A and B, combined. Same with the emergency preparedness bioterrorism agent, Ellen. Board of Health administrator extraordinaire, I love that, Ellen, who is just an amazing source of knowledge for regulations, our procedures, history of the town. She's good at technical review of plans as well for quite a number of aspects of the plans. So, and Medical Reserve Corps Executive Committee.
What does the Medical Reserve Corps Executive Committee do?
I mean, Ellen.
Well, the Medical Reserve Corps volunteers help out at our food clinics. And there's this executive committee, which I don't think they have met again for several years because there's such a small pool of volunteers. But they have 2 out of these 3 help out every year at the food clinic. And if it ever does grow, they will be in charge of the
Are they military?
no, they're just.
It's
volunteer.
just volunteers who are helping out.
Yeah, they don't even need a medical background. It's just called Medical Reserve Corps.
Other towns call
Although-
it Citizens Corps too,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's the same too. So.
I thought the same thing initially though, because when you see reserve corps together, you think that they typically have
Yeah,
a
so,
Yeah.
yeah,
But it's
Or at
a
least fancy
statewide,
Yeah.
it's a statewide organization, and they fall under the Region 4A Medical Reserve Corps.
Right, and then Doug Brody is
Yeah.
active in veterans,
Right. So is
so.
the only semi-controversial cutout for the food inspector?
Yeah, so we'll do that
There's
separate.
one more that I
Oh.
forgot to list is the Board of Health clerk.
Oh,
I forgot to put her on the list.
and if you don't know, we have a clerk who's in for mornings, Monday through Thursday, and helps out Ellen with filings and answering questions when people walk in and that sort of thing. Okay, so for all of the positions, with the exception of food inspector, do we have a motion to confirm those appointments?
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and for the food inspector, do we have a motion to alert the current food inspector that we do not plan to renew the contract for fiscal year 18. And we will instead make use of our health agents to perform food inspection services.
And can I, one other clarifying question. Beth is interested in this activity as well. We don't expect any concerns on her end.
Right, and Mark, I guess it's good if you are needed.
Oh, sure, by all means.
Would it be appropriate for me to ask if you would mind explaining what the history was? Why was that separated? Because that was separated at the beginning of, right after I was voted onto the board. I didn't really understand why that was separated.
As I mentioned, we were advised by town council to separate the health agent duties from the food inspector duties. What it was really more of an issue was we had two contracts, one for health agent and one for food inspector, and they felt that you couldn't have two contracts with a single person, which we did have, but we could have had a combined contract. We weren't advised that way, so we were advised to seek another.
But now that we aren't employing contract employees, everybody are, all are employees of the town, we can define their job description.
And it's
Within our
covered
purview, right?
under the
Is that what
current
I'm
health
saying?
agent description, because it talks about, we define a number of things. As I went over this with the town administrator, just to confirm, before we sent Beth for the library fair. And there's kind of a catch-all that talks about another duties of the Board of Health. So is what the health agent can do. So I felt it was okay.
Thank you.
And the town administrator, even though doesn't have direct control over the Board of Health staff, is certainly a resource for information about.
So there's statutory descriptions of,
Everyone has a job description.
right, no, but what I'm saying is that by statute, we have authority over the employees of the board, but because they're employees of the town as well, the administrator is involved. I was just clarifying, because these guys are new to the board. And I want to make sure that I understand it too, because by law, we, the board, has the authority to hire and fire our agents. But the town had desired to be involved in the hiring and firing as well, but there was already a statutory association between the employees.
Yeah, I think it's our responsibility, we have responsibilities to fulfill, so ultimately it's us, but again, town administrator is a resource for us too, as is town council.
But the contract is probably with the town, though. They're considered, they're not Board of Health employees, right? Or they're town employees. It's so their contract says they work directly for us, not for the town of Sherborn.
Right. And that's something that's statutory by state law. So actually, my understanding is that technically they report to us, but
Makes sense.
the sort of
Also be
changing
sort of
job
comported
description.
with town policy and approaches
Right.
to the degree possible and compatible with the responsibilities of the board. Is that kind of like a fair
I
description?
would say, and we go through the personnel board to get things approved for their review. We make sure things are consistent with them.
Yeah, but for example, one of the issues that had come up, and you read about it in letters to the board recently, was some work of members of the support staff of the Board of Health, which was authorized by the town administrator to be done off-site. And that was because of the new job description and structure within the town of Sherborn, that was authorized by the town administrator.
Okay.
All right. We're not going to talk about that now.
No, but that's just to
Because it's
for that.
either on here or for another time. So,
Yeah.
And so I think this all started with my interruption of the motion to notify the current contract that we're going to allow that to expire with our plan to have that fall into the scope of the appropriate health agents.
Part-time.
Part-time agents.
That motion was made, it hasn't been seconded yet.
Second.
Sorry, Joe.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now, let's see.
Is this being amended to include the Board of Health clerk, or are we adding that to a different meeting?
No, that was under our,
It's on the agenda.
okay. Quick comments while you're here, Mark, on 59 North Main Street. So 59 North Main is the 40B that's proposed for where the house with the tarp was. And we've just received some new information. And tomorrow night is a ZBA meeting on that I will try to attend. It kind of came up, wasn't on my radar, and I have something else scheduled, but I think I might be able to leave the other thing early. And fundraiser. So I want to see what new information, if you've had time to review it, otherwise we could talk tomorrow.
I had a chance to review what the most recent submittal, when it was submitted by Heritage Properties on May 12th. They have decided to go to 55 and over. If the board didn't know that, they provided, this is the plan I'd like to get a larger copy of. They provided 12 units, 4 units of duplexes, so total of 8 buildings. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 buildings, I apologize. But 12 units total because it's 2 and 2 of them. With that said, that was designed by engineering design consultants out of the town of Southborough. I've worked with him before, Peter Bemis, he's a designer. They gave a little overview of what it's going to look like. My concern is they want to put the septic system pretty much in the center of the it's a big cul-de-sac or loop around. And I would ask that the board consider the groundwater that was the design elevation for the approved septic plans. They took a conservative measure out there to design the septic leaching fields 2 feet higher than they needed to be. And I believe, I wasn't handling it, but the other agent was probably also, as well as the engineer, may have been considering what was observed out there by 2 other soil evaluators and myself. So that way it would be a compromise. And it's up to the board if you so wish, and it's hard to tell without matching the plan that I have here, but I'd like to be able to take the soil test plan that we were given by engineering design and see where those soil tests overlay. They appear to overlay with leaching fields going, but I'd like to be able to see it. I can say that from what I observed out there, the soil testing that was done near the house down here, they don't show it. No, right here, I'm sorry, it's the other house. Near the barn, in my view, is not suitable. It was very difficult soil, never mind the groundwater. Groundwater did get to be less concern as you went up the hill. So in all respects, if they're going to locate the common septic system, that would be the ideal place. At the same time, the consideration for the 2 wells will be for discussion, I guess, with the board. They're planning on private on-site wells, and we've talked about this before in other subdivisions that, you know, it was discussed tonight, we lose control after the wells are approved. There's no requirements to test the drinking water, so I think that needs to be taken under consideration. Looking at the nitrogen loading, it appears to fit the model. They're allowed 440 gallons per acre. They're about 239, I believe. So the nitrogen loading shouldn't be an issue. But again, I need larger plans to be able to start the review and an overlay of this previous soil testing to be able to get moving with it. So outside of that, that's the best I can give you a little more information, but those were my concerns with it. They did address the Board of Health's previous email, the previous memo that was written on December 14th, or close to that. And Peter Bemis wrote back his review on that, so that's included with it as well. And I have that if you want to. He was in his letter, he was addressing each one. Here it is, right here. Let's see, he addressed the acreage, 297 gallons per acre. Let's see, I already mentioned suggest the same water table depth used for the approved septic plans. The two wells I discussed. The wells are 175 feet from the proposed septic system. The concern would be, again, is controlling the water and so forth. So, and he went on. This letter here on May 11th was addressing the Board of Health's memo back in December, is what it was. So, let me see if I have any other notes here. It's not really our concern, but in looking over the traffic report and the zoning, I don't know if Peter Bemis is a traffic consultant. He was basically referencing consultants from studies. So it's up to the town, but just a side note, I don't know if the town requires an actual traffic consultant to sign off on the traffic determination. I'm not an expert, but I've reviewed them before, and usually you see a traffic consultant, just addressing the traffic, so that's separate from it. And so again, I think, those are my main concerns that I would ask the board to address with the applicant.
So the one thing I thought the change to 55 and over makes easier is the issue of 2 bedrooms per unit, because they were going to be sizable units and they were going to claim that they were 2 bedrooms, which then conflicts with how we regulate other things in town that have similar appearance in terms of layout and floor space and all the rest. But with 55 and older, 2 bedrooms is actually a restriction, because then you get the water use restriction as well.
Was this, did they already get approval for 55 and older?
They noted in their letter of, they note that, I think May 11th, that they were going forward now with, they decided on 55 and over. It could have been in the email correspondence between them and Jeannie Guthrie, who was coordinating the information we put on the website. But it was their letter, I believe, where they said we have decided to go with 55 and over.
I read an interesting article that the state is getting saturated with them. They may not, I don't know how much longer that's going to be a
May 12th.
option.
So, right, the one thing with that concerns me is if it's not marketable as 55 and older and then they change it, then we're left with 2-bedroom units that don't look and smell like a 2-bedroom unit.
You need 220 versus 150.
Right, so it changes.
220 gallons per day versus the 150 gallons per day for 55 and over. The state considered that there's less water generation and sewage generation with 55 and over communities versus...
I know, based on my kids.
Yeah. So because they're assuming that there will not be children residing in the home, which may or may not be a good assumption.
And that second bedroom might be for guests once in a while.
We don't have control over it.
No, I don't.
And they get fancy with those. They have lofts and they have rooms that are close to being a 3-bedroom.
No, so, but if couldn't sell as 55 and older if there was a
Then they
lot,
can pivot and say,
whatever
oh,
the
wow.
other things are,
Right.
then the infrastructure isn't sized right.
It turns out that the appetite of older adults to live far away from healthcare and ready public transit is bounded.
Right, and lack of entertainment, shopping.
Right.
They can come to meetings and board and committee meetings. Okay.
Have we got something to do? Right, and we have that fifth seat that
Yeah. Perfect.
So, in terms of EHIR, are you,
I wasn't.
I think it would be
I think it's appropriate.
necessary,
Environmental health
especially,
impact report.
acronym?
That's why I just said environmental health impact report,
Okay.
or 25 cents on the
Yeah, yeah.
table also. That's why I immediately addressed the 15220. I'm saying, wait a minute, I need to help out a little bit here. So, yeah, we have in our regulations a requirement for environmental health impact reporting. I think it's item 3 in our regulations.
for anything other than a single family home on a single property. And that would be this, and a driver for that is that you've got a real density of discharge. And yet, the spaces are the same and all the rest, so how does that impact?
It talks about
In particular
drainage.
wells and,
I think it's important.
yeah.
So I'm sorry, I did forget that portion. I was more in tune with the well, concerns with the septic, but yeah, I agree, because I don't know if they've done drainage calcs, and I know other parts of that property, from what I saw, could be a challenge as it relates to drainage. As well as, I don't know if they're planning to move off-site soil or bring soil on-site.
So my question is a procedural one, and that is, if they're applying for this to be 55 and older, does that have to get approved by the state before it comes before the board? Because it affects the septic design? Or,
Depends, if they're gonna be a 40B, 55 and older, then doesn't that, well, the state approved it already for 12 units, but I don't believe it was a 40, it was for a 40B.
well, it's a subset, I mean, it's,
So if it goes to just
It would need to
55
be-
and over, then it falls under us, I guess. I would expect.
Since it's still before the ZBA, I'm guessing it's still 40B. Otherwise, I think it would come out of that process.
So affordable housing for 55 and over is what they're choosing.
And it's going to be a different process because of how they're doing it through the ZBA. I don't know when and if we get all the septic plans. Not sure. Hasn't been clear to me. I've asked, but
When they give a little
I don't know, it still goes through the
Presentation.
Board of Health because it's,
it should, but it sounds like it's just being done differently this time. So,
it can't. It has to come in front of the board by state law. The Board of Health.
so, yeah, but the timing and when, I don't know. So, anyway, well, hopefully as it goes along, it'll be filled in. All right, it's getting late. How are we doing? That's great. Let's see.
Did you want any comments for ZBA, or are we just going to leave it that the board's still taking it into consideration?
I'm going to try and go to the meeting. If you want to jot anything down, that would be a good backup.
Pretty much the idea is with the environmental health impact report too, that you just said, wasn't even thinking of that when I was looking at this.
Would you be willing to write up some points, at least to draft, I could add to, or you could give to Ellen and she could send over to them, just so we have something on
When's
record
their meeting tomorrow?
tomorrow night?
Yeah, we have a limited window, I'll do the best I can.
Okay.
But we kind of addressed the thoughts, but.
Otherwise, I'll bring these notes and
Yeah,
at least
if I
get it
can.
in there, but it's not the
And
end.
I'll be honest, no, I've just, I don't have much time tomorrow to do it because there's an arrangement I have to be at, and so does an Ellen tomorrow night, so we have a limited window tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. Let's see. All right, I'm going to jump down just because it's important. So our agenda items for the next meeting, it turns out that 2 of our members can't make it. Rebecca will be in Peru,
I'll be slightly closer in Easton.
Okay, so we have a problem because we have 4 variance hearings that night. That means that some time ago, notifications went out to abutters that it was going to be heard at this time.
So, because there's
There
only
would
2
only
of
be
us,
2,
we're
and
not a
we're
quorum. Okay.
So,
My recollection for remote participation is that this would be out of scope for that. Is that correct? Is it not, like, I can't remember what the open meeting laws regulations were.
We speculated.
I think it would get hard because you couldn't see any of the materials that we're looking at, but
Yeah. well,
Like
that's-
plans
Right.
and things.
But I don't know, I don't even know if the town has they must have the equipment.
the equipment,
But
it might be possible.
So I would certainly be happy to participate remotely if it was determined that that was
Okay.
compliant with whatever the regulations were, other pieces. I think convincing my wife that I'm coming back from the Cape may prove costly. So,
But then you'll have a lot more free time to give to the board.
right. So what I'd say is if we can at the first pass, see if there's an opportunity for remote participation. If there's not, and it sounds like this is extremely problematic, I will also explore with my spouse, but I would put that as a distant and mildly frightening plan B.
Okay, so,
Okay, I'll check
so you'll
back
check on
tomorrow.
that.
Now, when your emails are being forwarded to me, do you still get them though?
Yes.
Okay, because I,
Good. That was David Williams' suggestion for if I can't have a town email, to set up an auto forward to so that you have it for your records. So if there are questions, it's just
Yeah.
auto forwarding
Yep.
what I receive.
okay,
But then the challenge with that is I have to manually add you to CC any responses to include
Right.
you. I can't build it to
Right.
automatically CC you.
Oh,
I can just
okay.
automatically forward to you.
Okay,
So my hope would be to eventually get a town of Sherborn email address, but if this is the workaround, I just want to make sure I'm doing
Yeah.
everything possible with
yeah,
guidance.
yeah, okay, I just didn't know, because I've gotten
Yeah,
a
and
couple.
even on my phone, I've got a little folder that I can say, boy,
Yeah,
it's a lot of email.
yeah,
So I am getting them.
I
okay.
don't have a town of Sherborn email address.
Yeah.
I don't either.
I just set up a separate account for the Board of Health.
Yeah. No, so I did that. It's, in a perfect world, I would wish that the town of Sherborn would say, you're an elected official, you've got regulatory
Yeah.
requirements for keeping your records. We should be doing that on your behalf, as opposed to this workaround that leaves me on the hook for my own compliance, where this is a position, this should be supported by the town. It shouldn't be me saying, I maintain my Gmail, oh, whoops, I did it wrong. Like, this is in the scope, but I don't know if that's a conversation for the selectmen and the town administrators, or how that gets adjudicated. But
And if
since-
somebody would like to take that on, we've had lots of discussions where they looked at me like I was nuts to be where.
Right, but it's
So-
like if we're gonna get a lot of requests, I wanna make sure that we're able to be fully and transparently compliant with those requests, and having a separate email that I do all business through certainly makes it easier, but I would love to have a formal pathway so that when I leave the board, if there are questions 2 years down the line, I don't intend to, once my board service finishes, I'm not sure that I'll want to get email.
Right.
And
So you
so,
can-
it'll all be done.
Yeah.
But with town, you then have the ability to archive. Gmail will not archive, those will then be gone, and so it creates some long-term compliance challenges that the town should manage.
Yeah.
Yes, I was
Yeah,
also
that's a good
informed that I
point.
should just delete emails after some number of days, which I didn't.
That does not sound
No, I
correct.
didn't.
I haven't deleted anything for the entire time I've been here.
So, anyway, yes, at some point it'd be nice if that resolved itself, but I don't think other boards are under the same scrutiny that we are, so they don't feel the need to ratchet up attention to some of these details in the same way. So. Okay. All right, so you'll check on that. Worst case, we would have to just continue all those hearings to
Yeah.
another set time and date.
You have to open them, continue them,
Yeah.
and it would probably be then the next meeting.
And could we even
Couldn't
officially
we
open
meet
and
and discuss
continue if we
it?
don't have a quorum?
No, you couldn't.
No, you can't.
No, you can't. So now we'd have to just,
Oh, but we might be able to do that piece by phone, right? If we had to. If we can't do the whole thing by phone, maybe we could at least do the opening and continuation by phone. As the worst
that's
case.
every 20 minutes. Yeah. So you have to sit around every 20 minutes.
So, okay.
It's better to just reschedule. We've
fine.
never,
We can't-
never had to reschedule a meeting in 2 years.
Well, and it's not an easy one to reschedule if it was.
No, I'm just pointing out that it's a shame.
Yeah.
I've been on the board for 2 years, we've never had a meeting that couldn't take place.
So,
So I'm sorry.
okay.
I blame Chris Quinn.
Okay.
For one.
All right.
Like a
Okay,
guest
star?
Yeah. But so maybe Ellen, if you can let me know, and then I will talk to Julie.
Yeah.
Easton, certainly much closer than Peru, so before I transit back.
I'll come in, I'll Skype in from that. There probably isn't even internet access where I'm gonna be.
Okay.
I wouldn't fret.
We're on item 3 under chairs business. Although we do want to make the first meeting an immersion into the things that we have. So we had a request regarding 41 North Main Street that
Which one's 41 North Main?
It was an insurance agency owned by Fitzpatrick at one
it's off
time.
in Fitzpatrick property, right by the traffic light.
Okay.
That has been talked about many times for other kinds of development, and so there was a discussion back, I think, in December of the new owners and developers and some ideas that they had. But in any case, they wanted to do some testing there. The application for testing wasn't submitted by the required date. We have a date so that things could be scheduled out. It's April 1st is the due date. And often there are lots, so it's just to ensure that it can be lined up. There's field observations arranged with the health agent. So there was that question of first doing that out of sequence, and then it was late enough in April that it might have also gone beyond the standard testing period. So one thing they were considering is whether they might look at doing a septic system that would be of a size that would fall under Mass DEP jurisdiction, so over 10,000 gallons. And the question came up of whether, well, if they pursued that, and they could do that at any time, because DEP just has different approaches, and we could discuss the whys and whatever at some other time. But they wanted to know if we would accept the evaluation of the Mass DEP representative who might go out in the field, if they did that with them and then changed back to a system that would be regulated by the local Board of Health. So in our regulations, and I don't know if you got to read this.
Yeah, I read it.
Okay, so I'm not going to read it out loud because it's not a public record. But, so basically, right, I wrote the question saying, hey, our regulation says this, so can we do something different, or can we authorize somebody? How do we work that? Is that okay? As I read it, the basic answer is yes, we can choose to accept a Mass DEP evaluator, and we could talk about whether we all agree with that. Personally, I'm okay with it, but I could see having some kind of condition that says, as long as we get to talk to whoever that evaluator is to make sure that they do the things that we are most interested in, such as, are they going to check for miles? You know, just some basics, and make sure that we've done our homework, that they're going to provide us the information that would be on our checklist of what we need to know, and arrange for monitoring pipes to be left and that kind of
So
stuff.
essentially saying it could be permissible for them to be our agent. It is not automatic that they would be our agent. It needs to pass these thresholds of how we conduct business, but if so passing, it was performed by this individual, they could function as an agent for it.
And are they willing to provide us process with clear field notes and evaluation.
I'm kind of concerned because I think that, we're so evil, and I think this, maybe
But
it's
in all
like a
fairness, I'm
desire to
super
bypass
evil.
us. And what I'm concerned about is it's just like a setting precedent of how to bypass the board. And how do we know that we're going to be working, and my biggest complaint for the 2 years that I've been on the board is that I feel like, we have regulations and we should just like follow the regulations and not have every single person coming for the board. We almost never follow the regulations. And I understand when we have circumstances that we need to, like variances, but we are
There's a
not,
deadline,
actually
it's April
haven't been
1st.
consistent. We have not been consistent in the 2 years of following, and I actually think that's one of the reasons we're being criticized, and I actually think we need to decide, are we gonna follow it, are we gonna have the regulations and follow them? Or are we not gonna bother having regulations? So I think we as a board need to address that. Is this really important? Did they know months in advance? Absolutely. Are we setting precedent? Yes. Is this just a strategy to bypass the board? Now, I personally could care less, right? I might not even be on the board in a few months, right? So it's maybe it won't even ever affect me. But the point is that what is the benefit of it? Is this most of the time when we make exceptions to the regulations, which, we should revise the regulations, there are clearly places where we could make them better. I'm assuming that when they were established, there were rational reasons behind each detail. I don't know. I'm trusting that. And we're going to examine things and maybe we can even make them better, and we've been talking about that for a long time. But the question is, when we have a lot of projects coming before us and we have people who've been working with the town for a really long time, like the engineer who has been working here for 30 years but consistently accidentally leaves off things that are standard procedure.
Right.
Is this just another example? The deadline is well known.
People say, well, you did April
Right.
15th
This
before,
is
why
an
won't you do
example
April
of the slip.
15th?
Now I'm saying,
That's
I
right.
personally don't like the slippery slope. I don't personally have any interest in preventing a project, slowing
Right.
progress. I just don't want to get involved with that. So to me, it's helpful to have a guideline. You just sort of that's the way we do it. This is the way it has to be. I'm really, we do our best.
And I will say,
But
all
I
these
think we
kinds
make
of things.
we are torturing ourselves when we don't follow our own guidelines.
And then people kind of say, this is inconsistent, it's not transparent, and
Right.
it becomes this very subtle parsing of, well, this is how it's slightly different, but we're then faced with interpreting this gray zone and being accused based on people's own lenses of what they think is happening or what
Right.
they think the larger narrative is.
And I want to treat
also
every single
uses a lot
person the
more
same. I don't want to give special favors to my friend or my whatever. I want to be treating everyone the same and know that there's a reason that we're doing it that way. That's my
Honestly,
personal.
There may be times that there's not a reason, but it's the rule. And we then either need to change the rule or follow
Right.
the rule that may be somewhat arbitrary and it's cut off of this date or that date. Like, is there something magically different between April 1st and April 15th? No, but it's April 1st. And
Right.
so the federal government is April 15th.
Right, and as I said,
Yeah.
there was a whole presentation in
Right.
December about this project that clearly was going to have something
Yeah.
on site.
So why did, I guess, I thought that the issue was that they were debating which approach they were going to use, and one approach, it would be the DEP.
But they've been past
Inspector.
our deadline, so they say, I will go to DEP inspector because I failed to meet your deadline.
Right.
If you choose to enforce your deadline, I will go to them about this much
Right.
larger system. But can I change my mind and say, oh, whoopsie? And are they really intentionally pursuing DEP because that's their intended
Is
project?
it
Or is it,
manipulative
don't we
or-
just do the whoopsie?
So I'm sorry to be the devil's advocate, but that's a little bit what is happening, and I'm concerned about that, and I'm not personally, I don't have a personal issue. I just think that it's something that we need to, maybe as a board, we should all decide what we want to do so that we're being a little bit more consistent, a little bit more
So predictable, so you can say if I bring this.
predictable, a little bit more, I know if I don't get my CMEs, 100 hours of CMEs every 2 years. I'm not going to get my license.
I
renewed.
regulatory deadlines all the time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
my deadline is my birthday every 2 years. I know that.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm the one who suffers, and I know that it's my responsibility, and I know that I have to do it, and I benefit from it, and I lose when so we're all perhaps.
I think that you raise a really good point, and I think you have to look at the motivation. So I think from a technical perspective, I think it could be workable in the appropriate situations to have DEP act as an agent as long as, we made sure that they're adhering to our procedures and get the correct information that we would need. But I think in this case, it doesn't sound like it needed to go that way, and that they were trying to just basically circumvent adherence to the
that's
typical
where
deadlines. And
it's-
so I think the motivation is, you have to consider
We
that.
also know that there's a history in that lot in the center of town. We know the groundwater is very high. We know there's some challenges, and they're going to be, and it's going to be hard to be involved with that project on the Board of Health because of the issues that we already know about it. And I'm sure we'll come up with more. But we have to think about the big picture, and I think if we just, everybody, I'm sure, would love to just, well, my life would be so much easier if I don't have to deal with that project, so maybe we should authorize it, but I'm joking. But, so anyway, I'm sorry to bring that up. but
I
that's
don't
my-
think it should be given, and I don't think we should be rubber stamping things, even though from a technical perspective, just like our discussion earlier, some things are very clearly logical from a technical perspective, but I agree in this case with the slippery slope that, we are setting a precedent, and then it eradicates the deadlines, which were made for a reason. There was a rationale behind the deadlines that we set forth, so I'm inclined
And
to...
even the testing periods too, so my
Well, that's-
understanding, and you
they're all
can get into
linked.
the other
Yeah.
details, but it's, you get better information during certain times of year, and if you don't have models, and for homeowners, the idea of going out, you went out in the dry period, you found nothing, now you're making adjustments you don't like, blah, 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 if you just found water, things would be better. So it was set up to kind of help people, because I think based on the experience that the board members had, and one of the board members who I think was instrumental through a lot of the regulatory development for the town, helped write Title V. So it's not as if it was someone not knowledgeable, it was somebody who was writing the state level regulations and understood it and was a health agent elsewhere and all that. So it was based on all that experience.
Who was that?
Bill Dooney.
He's a
So,
professional engineer as well as
right.
very
So
involved
he
with the
lived in
environment.
So he wrote a lot of these regulations.
I wasn't here when they got pretty much authored. I believe it was the early 1980s. Bill was here at that time, and he was involved with the 2 to 3 years prior to Title V changing in 1995. So, yeah, he's been helpful to the Mass Association. He's passed, but he was very helpful to the Mass Association of Health Boards too with regulation overview.
Yeah, so there are reasons behind these things, and I actually like your comments because we spend so much time pulling apart things, and again, it's not something that came up last minute. Like what we talked about earlier, that they're led into a situation where they did, to address one thing, they used a chemical that led to another issue.
Right.
So
That's different, that is
yeah.
different.
this one is.
There's plenty of information at 41 North Main Street. I was out there in the late 90s with an engineer, and he doubted the models, the redox, and we had Peter Benneman from UMass, he taught soil evaluation, come out to verify what I saw. I was being challenged by the engineers, so, we have a good handle historically on groundwater out there. They're welcome to the data, it's on file. That could help. I'm trying to look at the positive side too. They're welcome to look at what we have presently. So,
And then their next period for testing would be.
November 1st. But they can use some of the data we have now, just to get an idea what they want to
can help inform.
Yeah, exactly.
Does anyone want to make a motion on this issue? On whether or not we accept?
I move that we enforce our local regulations as they are written at this time. So it's after the deadline.
All right,
So
I
it's,
call that too broad, I would say.
Yeah, I would be very specific.
okay,
Uh,
okay. So I have to learn this right.
So, and we usually frame it in a positive, so
Right.
we move that we would accept, subject to certain conditions of credentials and information gathered in the field to accept DEP soil evaluation,
Oh, I see.
field observations for septic system placement.
But this
I actually don't
scenario
object.
doesn't.
I don't object to,
that.
I don't
Right,
object
so
to.
you're supposed to pose it in a positive and then you would put negative.
Okay, right.
Oh, I see.
Somehow there's something there. So, I don't.
So we're saying this scenario that we would do it, it ain't this one.
Well, it's posing a hypothetical
Right. So if we had.
relative to this situation.
Okay. So are we saying that if we had testing in the window that we described for our deadlines and DEP performed that testing, satisfying all criteria that we pulled for Sherborn regulations, the fact that that was performed by DEP and we had access as opposed to performed by Mark, that would satisfy the board?
It could, no,
It could.
I think it could.
Okay.
If they did it within the correct timeframes and it just, you know,
Well,
why would they do that though?
I'd
I
say,
can't imagine. I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out why.
and procedurally, it would be more work for us to have to
Then liaise
reach
with.
out,
right.
coordinate with them. Are they gonna talk to us? Are they gonna get back to us?
They
It
But then we
doesn't
sort of locked in
matter.
the failure of practice of the
They
DEP
gave us-
agent.
Notes that we can't read, they
Right.
won't come to a meeting and explain it. I mean, there's just lots of,
So you're then sort of left with, if the DEP agent doesn't comply with our requirement, we're left with the constituent who says, look, I did what you said, it's not my fault that you didn't come talk to me, why are you penalizing me?
Right.
But it's really, you failed to meet the criteria set forth here, we have no control over the DEP agent. That's why we wouldn't do it this way.
And the DP agent wasn't performing the observations in the time frame that our regulations
Right.
stipulate, so.
Right.
So you're saying that we have to word it this way and then vote it down in order to preserve the regulations?
Yeah.
As opposed to me proposing what I want to do, which is to enforce the regulations. We just propose this and then vote it
Correct.
down. Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Because I also never think that way.
So, are you gonna?
did you kind of get what
There
I
was a motion to accept the credentials and information gathered in the field by a DEP soil evaluator for the field observations for the septic system.
But if
So
you
it was,
don't, but if you don't,
it was to accept the DEP soil evaluators field observations, subject to them having appropriate credentials.
but if you're proposing it,
I think
then
Ellen
you're
said it.
supporting it.
Fine, I think she said it fine, actually, because.
Okay, now I'm,
All right, sorry, go back.
But
and-
if you propose it, doesn't, this is a
accept-
procedural question.
to accept the credentials and
Oh, okay.
information gathered in the field by a DEP soil evaluator for a septic system.
I need to ask a procedural
Okay,
question
so
about a
accept the
motion.
Meaning that they have the credentials. No, I was thinking.
But if you are
Right,
not,
word it
no, but I actually
differently, I
think
can
it's
flip it.
dangerous. I think it's dangerous to, see, my understanding, and this is a procedural question, if you are proposing, making a motion, you are saying you're in favor of it.
No,
No,
it's more this question has been brought to us and then we're deciding.
It's basically asking for a variance, correct?
Yeah, I would look at the minutes on page 204, if I may, of, this is the April, February 1st, 2017.
Do we have any of these?
I shared them, didn't have it with 41 left in this.
What it says is that it says Mr. Solonier asked if da-da-da-da, and then he posed, I think, the motion that the Board of Health honor the testing witnessed by the DEP, in parentheses, and not witnessed by the local Board of Health for a later design submitted to the board. I think that may be your motion right there, because that was the request, and that would form the motion, I believe.
Yeah, okay, that can be.
Oh, page 2 of...
Page 2, right where it starts with Mr. Solonier. Ignore the rest of it for the next sentence, but you could frame your motion right from what he's requesting. You know, if you wish
But
to.
I think that you only would move it if you're in support.
You have to move it to get a chance to deny it. It sounds crazy, but most people don't like doing that. I agree it sounds like you're gonna,
This is just...
but you'll see in many cases, people will make a motion and then deny it because they weren't in favor, but to get it on the table for review.
It's really... So make a motion
Okay,
to
I'll withdraw the previous motion.
accept the soil analysis and evaluation conducted by the DEP agent for the 241 North Main Street property, in lieu of our agent's observations.
I missed that altogether.
In lieu of our Board of Health agents, plural for agents.
It's on, you can look on the TV.
And you know what, then
I think that's why I'm looking at
you can stop and that'll be fine. Maybe we'll vote on the minutes, actually.
Okay.
Sounds great.
And that you don't need to televise, it's really not worth it. And then I guess we might have to move some of these to another.
Do you want to finish the vote on that motion?
Yes. Are you ready? Did you get it, Ellen? Or?
Yeah.
So
And did
it's
we have a
motion
second?
by Lisa, and I don't know if anyone made a second.
Second?
We have a second.
Okay. Any more discussion, anybody?
I think, Madam Chair, you just might want to clear up a yes vote's for it, a no vote's not for it. I think you discussed that.
I think we're clear.
All right, all those in favor?
Okay.
Opposed?
Nay.
You got it.
Yeah, I was so excited, so excited.
Yeah, you were right.
We talked about the horses, I was so excited. My first day of the day.
That's fine. So yay sometime too.
How old are your kids? You can
Five.
make horse sounds?
Yeah, 5 and 2.
excellent.
I don't love that story.
Yeah.
Let's go fast.
Oh boy, oh boy. All right, so, let's do the permit, because that's time sensitive.
Food permit,
Ola's Organics,
for
and 2017 food permit.
Can I ask a question on that, if I may? I don't want to curtail your meeting. I was reading the minutes in that, and I know I'm not the food inspector, but, I'm going to be taking that role sometime. Was there any discussion on the water testing to make sure the water's potable?
Yeah,
There was.
and I was going to ask it to be conditional to they doing the water testing. So they will be submitting it. And I was going to say it could be conditional to.
Okay.
It won't be released until the water testing. And then the food inspector has recommended the allergy awareness training and the certified food manager training.
Well, that leads to the point that I was going to make next. You cannot allow, to state code, perishable foods to be made in the home. You can allow perishable ingredients to make non-perishable items such as cupcakes, cookies. You can have milk and margarine, but the end product cannot be perishable. The state doesn't allow it. So I didn't want to interfere, but I was reading the minutes and I'm saying, ooh, I hope they took that into consideration. So if it's perishable, such as items that need to be refrigerated, cut up fruits, vegetables, can't be done in a home kitchen.
Okay.
I think it's baked goods that they will sell at a farmer's market.
Those are okay. Baked goods that are shelf stable.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Okay,
I just didn't know, and I
so
just
do
wanted.
we need to make it conditional to confirming that has the food inspector already
It's
talked to
consistent
this
with state
person?
law.
Already talked to them and has inspected.
Oh, all right. Okay,
This
so,
is his recommendation
Okay, that's
additional
fine.
to
That's fine, just,
the allergy awareness training and the certified food manager training, and then conditional to our receipt of the acceptable water test, which they are doing.
Okay, all right, so do we have a motion to approve the food permit for Ola's Organics, subject to receipt of passing water quality test?
I would also add to let it be in compliance with the state law for home kitchens. Then we don't
yeah, in case they decide on a perishable.
have to worry,
Like if they sort of change their mind.
double check what they make. You know, they can read the code and then come back to us if they need a variance or if they want to discuss it.
Okay, so can you, as a food inspector, could you word the
Yeah,
additional
and
amendment
comply with
condition?
all Massachusetts codes as it relates to
Oh, food code,
food board, for food codes. Massachusetts and federal food codes. Plural.
Okay.
And just so you know, we're the only state in the country that allows home kitchens.
Really?
That's why they can't do interstate commerce. They have to be in a licensed facility because you lose control in home kitchens.
Yeah.
You don't know it's how to get into them and so forth. But we are the only state in the country.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay. All right, just, it's a,
Can I ask one question?
yeah,
The variance, going back, the variances that you granted for Abbey Road, he has not paid the variance fees,
oh. Okay,
which
darn,
wasn't noted.
yes, I
Um,
missed that.
Should we,
Uh,
he did say he would pay them,
okay,
but he said it last time too.
yes. Let me see, got so sidetracked by all the other,
Opportunities for discussion.
yes.
Perfectly worded.
So would you like us to vote to authorize you to email him and remind him that
Yeah.
he needs to pay the variance fee before?
Yep.
And I guess we could always hold up the certificates of
Yeah,
consent.
okay.
Yeah, so,
All right.
does that need a vote or just, would you prefer? a
Well, as
vote?
long as you all agree to it, it's essentially.
All right, so I make a
Sounds
motion
good.
that we authorize Ellen to inform the applicant about need to pay the variance fees.
Remain outstanding.
Yes, so all those in favor? Oh, we need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so we'll have a discussion about office field and other hours, and just to at another meeting, because that's a big topic. You may have seen, read, heard discussions about how dare anybody work outside the office. However, I will note that the complainant in this particular case had, let's see, it was after 6 p.m. on Friday before New Year's Eve weekend, had submitted a request and proceeded to submit information throughout the weekend that had to be reviewed by the health agent and me, and no notice, and it was urgent, and lots of discussion, nothing. Fortunately, the emails just had the data as it rolled in and various pieces of information, but didn't have all the requests saying, have you confirmed with Agent Mascoop that he will be reviewing this Sunday morning? Have you confirmed where we're doing it, what's happened, where do we
So
see
it
it?
sounds like
Questions
this will
back
be
and forth.
future discussion
Yeah,
at a later date.
let's,
And
I'd not change
February, same thing happened again, after 6 p.m. on Friday, stuff happening over the weekend, had to be reviewed immediately. So those are cases, and we've had things with food, well, that was the food inspector, but still, food poisoning over a weekend, and do you want
Well,
that
food
person to
poisoning-
wait until they travel in to address it, or data comes in and it... Anyway, it's the whole question of work at home and whether people feel there's oversight. And what I feel on this board is we constantly see work from the agent. We turn to him and we say, hey, explain that project. I have not had Mark ever say, I don't know, or let me look at it now quickly. Never happens.
What I might suggest is I'm at high risk of my wife murdering me today.
Yeah.
Is if we can table that to the.
I just want to let you know that that's going to be the subject of that discussion. And then we'll talk about the funds approved by town meeting, also because it turns out advisory just let us know today that not quite fully approved, the funds for the general chemical approved, the other one a little bit in limbo.
That's for the assessing rounding.
Yeah, but that's moving along with, no work has been done, but in terms of getting it set up.
So do we need to approve the minutes, so?
Yeah, we do need to approve the minutes. We'll talk about finalizing meeting minutes and challenges and legal interpretation of just how that works. The administrator's job description and vis-a-vis personnel bylaw and some other things. I added the whole issue of lots of discussion going on next door Sherborn. I think there's a lot of misinformation there, but how do we feel about that as a board? I haven't gotten involved because
I feel lousy, but I don't think anything will change the behaviors any more than my strong political postings on Facebook have switched nobody from blue to red or red to blue.
Exactly.
And to me, I view it as something
Nobody changes their mind on the internet.
No, and
You
I,
only feel stronger.
But you can try, I mean, I have tried to insert facts.
Right.
Like, I got actual
Inserted a
facts.
fact and I just got attacked.
I would honestly suggest that we engage, like my Nicholas,
Disengage.
the people who read, post, and discuss is not a cross-section of our community. We have meetings to have these conversations, and I think if people are going to choose to engage in that way, we need to have the decency to interact with each other, and if you can't have that conversation with me sitting in a room that my wife or son were here for, this is not an appropriate conversation, and the more we treat this as a valid space for discourse, we let these problematic behaviors, people can just say whatever they want, and then it's validated, and it's just like, no, literally say it to me. If you want to say it to me, say it to me.
and that's how I feel. It's not
Yeah.
juried in a sense,
Right.
and it's, and I haven't gotten engaged.
And
And I also view it as, I would spend my entire life.
I also think it
doing
gets
that,
kind of
so-
muddy about some of the open meeting laws, is if you're saying I'm having a discussion and deliberation in this forum, that gets really muddy about how is this different than email, you're communicating social media, and so my advice would be, I don't think we're going to change our mind, but even if we could change our mind, we need to do it in the form of, here's a posted meeting with a posted agenda, posted discussion, clear deliberation.
Well, I think that's a response if I observe things that are just incorrect or misinformation, saying this is a topic that we are going to be discussing at our next meeting. We welcome you to share your
That way,
views.
boom, we're ready.
Okay, all
I
right,
think that's kind of just.
okay.
Right. So that would be my 2 cents, because I just feel like it gets really easy, muddy, and toxic.
Okay,
And I
and
actually just don't felt this.
so we'll talk about the posting of minutes to the Board of Health website. Next time there was a decision made in the past by a past board about how things were done, and we could just,
I'm for that, but we can discuss that.
so. Okay, so the last thing we have are minutes.